Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome, friends and colleagues. Please take a seat, the last of you that are standing, so we can begin the 2019 Northern Waterfront Forum. I'd like to welcome you today to the forum, Bringing the Jobs to the People. My name is Colette Simonton. I work for the City of Pittsburgh as the Assistant Director of Economic Development and Recreation, a little bit different than most folks. And I'll be your Master of Ceremonies for today. The event committee has planned an exciting and informative series of sessions and panels highlighted by our keynote address from the California State Treasurer, Ms. Fiona Ma. Today, we are celebrating the accomplishments so far of the Northern Waterfront Economic Development Initiative, a partnership of Contra Costa County and the cities of Hercules, Martinez, Concord, Pittsburgh, Antioch, Oakley, and Brentwood, as well as launching the implementation phase of the initiative. I hope you had a chance to take a look at our achievement slideshow that was airing during the networking session. How many of you folks were able to see that or even looked up there? Good. It'll also play again during the lunch service. But nobody's resting on these accomplishments, and we are moving forward together to create and sustain jobs in our communities. First on today's agenda, because we're moving right into it, we'll hear from our Welcome Committee, which consists of District 5 Supervisor Federal Glover, District 3 Supervisor Diane Burgess, and our host community representative, Antioch Mayor Dr. Shawn Wright. So if I can have the three of you come up to the mic at this time.
Wow, it's great to see you all here today. But before I formally give you all the official welcome, I'd like to take a few moments to share some perspective on the Northern Waterfront Initiative, the community's renewal endeavor to bring that has brought us together today. District 5 prior to 2010 was largely Eastern Contra Costa County's district. After the 2010 census, the Board of Supervisors redrew the district lines, and District 5 cities now consist of Antioch, Pittsburgh, Martinez, Hercules, and parts of Pinole. District 5 also unincorporated areas such as Bay Point, Clyde, Pacheco, Crockett, and Rodale are part of the district. And all of these districts are in the Northern Waterfront. All of these communities and cities are in the Northern Waterfront. While a council member in Pittsburgh many years ago, I worked aggressively to help develop economic options for the city. After seeing the great economic opportunity that comes with the waterfront, I proposed this initiative to my colleagues on the Board of Supervisors. In February 2013, the Board of Supervisors authorized Conservation and Development, DCD, to begin work on this initiative. January 2014, we held our first public forum right here. Much like this one, over 400 individuals representing business, labor, public safety, workforce development, and many more participated. A work group was formed, and with the passionate support of the Board of Supervisors and the hard work of the DCD staff, our strategic development plan was released in January of this year. I welcome you all here today as partners who are about to shape the history and define the great economic future for Contra Costa County. We welcome the board colleagues that are here. We welcome our state elected officials that are here. We welcome our city representatives. We welcome Those from the unincorporated areas, we welcome our business and business leaders. We welcome the churches and community-based organizations. Thank you all for being here today and committing your time and resources to making our economic dream a reality. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Come on, let's get this energy going, because this is not about us talking to you. It's about getting you even more involved in economic development. So good morning. Good morning. That's all right. You know, I've been attending these meetings and events that have talked about economic development in East Contra Costa. Originally, I started attending as someone that was working for a business that was promoting business, and then I came as a executive director of a nonprofit, and then later on as a leader representing a city. How's Oakley? Oakley's in the house. Representing East Bay Regional Park District, and now as a county supervisor. And as I was preparing to come this morning, I was thinking about the fact that, you know, there are classes and experts on economic development. There are strategies and all of that, but what is the magic that makes it happen? And I think we have so much potential here in Contra Costa County. We have a beautiful climate. We have a history of manufacturing. We have a wonderful agricultural community. We have really good workforce that would love to work where they live, work where they live. So we have so much potential. And so my challenge to you today is to think about what you can do to contribute, because I can tell you I've been inspired. And I am excited to share some of the work that we've accomplished in the last year and a half or so since the last getting together like this. But I see all kinds of people in this room representing education, business, the interfaith community, cities, counties, nonprofits, you know, the gamut. And we are all in this together. And I believe that we can accomplish a lot of things together. So I am so inspired to see this room full. Thank you for being here. I look forward to seeing what else we can do. And I get to introduce Mayor Shawn Wright, someone I think is doing an amazing job and is a dear friend. And here is Mayor Shawn Wright from Antioch.
Thank you. And I would say welcome, but I'm saying welcome back. We are back from after 4 or 5 years ago doing this event with 400 people, kicking off a Northern Waterfront Initiative that would drive what's needed in this county is jobs. What's needed in this county is jobs. I want you to understand how important that is and how for all of us that just makes sense. But when I went out last year to the Association of Bay Area Governments meeting in San Francisco, the chair of ABAG said, "We do not need any more jobs." Now, you guys are saying what? Because you guys are in this cloud. I want you to understand that what the rest of the Bay Area sees Contra Costa County as is the housing center for their workers. They see us as the housing center for their workers. And so people that live in East Contra Costa commute up to an hour and a half one way every single day to go to work. 75% of the people that live here, that work here, do not have a local job. It's no quality of life. The Northern Waterfront Initiative, thanks to the leadership of our supervisors, Supervisor Federal Glover, Supervisor Mary Pifo, Supervisor Diane Burgess, now thanks to the staff, John Kopchik, Rich Seithel, Amalia Cunningham, for the work that's being done to drive forward a vision of how are we going to create the jobs that we need right here for our future residents, for the residents that live here now, for the residents that are to come. We cannot be looked at as the housing center for the rest of the Bay Area. We have to stand up and continue to fight, to continue put forth the idea and the concept that we deserve the jobs, we deserve and need the opportunity to be able to give the jobs to the people that live right here in our community. And we will continue to fight for that. So to all of us, this makes sense. But understand that if we don't keep ringing that bell and yelling and screaming to the rest of the Bay Area, they don't see it the same way we do. And when you look at the stats, when you look at the graphs, we have more jobs than we have people in the Bay Area. And so they can look at you with real intent and say, we don't need any more jobs. And we need to stand up and say, fine, then send your extras our way, because we need them. Thank you for coming today. Hopefully this will be a wonderful, amazing opportunity for us to come together, to really drive some vision, to drive some motivation and encouragement, for us to leave ready to be able to go forward and keep drumming the beat that this is the place. Send us your jobs. Thank you for coming today.
How about that for a welcome? If that didn't get you excited about some jobs in this area, I don't know what will. All right, we're going to move right along and thank the supervisors and the mayor. And before we jump into our first panel, I want to take a moment and acknowledge all of the other elected officials or their representatives who are currently joining us today. I'm going to read everyone's name. If you could please stand or wave, and if we can, as an audience, hold the applause until we've announced all of them, because we've got a very long list. So, from the office of Congressman Mike Thompson, we have Cora Young. The office of State Senator Steve Glacier, George Escutia. From the office of Assemblymember Jim Frazier, Jen Kwolek and Shawn Kearns. From the office of Assemblymember Timothy S. Grayson, Alejandra Sandres Isidro, excuse me if I mispronounce anyone's name. Contra Costa County Superintendent of Education, Lynn Mackey. From the Board of Directors of the Bay Area Rapid Transit District, Deborah Allen and Mark Foley. From Contra Costa County, in addition to our host supervisors, Burgess and Glover, Antioch, representing the Office of Supervisor Karen Mitchoff. From the Contra Costa Community College District, Board Member Greg Enholm. From the City of Antioch, Mayor Shawn Wright, Mayor Pro Tem Joy Motz, and Council Members Lori Orgachok and Monica Wilson. From the Antioch Unified School District, Board Member Ellie Householder. From the City of Brentwood, Mayor Bob Taylor and Council Members Karen Rary and Claudette Staton and Johnny Rodriguez. From the City of Concord, Mayor Carolyn S. Obringer and Council Member Dominic Aliano. From the Mount Diablo Unified School District, Board Member Deborah Mason. From the City of El Cerrito, Council Member Gabe Quinto. From the City of Hercules, Mayor Dan Romero. From the City of Lafayette, Councilmember Teresa Geringer. From the City of Martinez, Mayor Rob Schroeder and Councilmember Laura Delaney. From the City of Oakley, Mayor Claire Alara and Councilmember Kevin Romick. From the City of Pittsburgh, Mayor Juan Bonala and Councilmembers Jelani Killings and Holland White. From the Ambrose Park and Recreation District, Board Member Lupe Lopez Garcia. From the Iron House Sanitary District Board, Vice President Don Morrow and Board Member Chris Lauritsen. And finally, from the Los Madonnas Healthcare District, Lee Mason. You can now applaud. We want to thank you all for joining us today. And now at this time, I'd like to invite all the Northern Waterfront mayors and our panel moderator, Kristen Connolly of the East Bay Leadership Council, to join Mayor Wright and Supervisor Glover on stage. Please give the panel a moment to get settled.
Well, good morning. So Colette is doing such a good job as MC, because not only do we have an inspirational welcome, we had 3 elected officials speak, and we are 10 minutes ahead of schedule. Yes, that is right, ladies and gentlemen. And let me tell you, we are going to need every single minute of that, because my challenge today is moderating a panel with 8, count it 8, elected mayors and Supervisor Federal Glover. So they invited a fast talker. That is what I am. I am a fast talker, but I am a proud East Bay native. So yes, my name is Kristen Connolly. I'm the president and CEO of the East Bay Leadership Council. That's a regional employer advocacy group representing hundreds of employers in Contra Costa and Alameda County. It's nice to see many of our board members in the room. We've been around for more than 80 years. We're excited to be here. I'm also the executive director of the Contra Costa Economic Partnership, which is one of your sponsors today, the 501c3 sister organization of the East Bay Leadership Council that supports research and great stuff to help economic development. So All of our panelists are seated. It's very exciting. So here's the format. Each of the mayors has been given 4 minutes. That's right, 4 minutes. Now, where's our timekeeper? Do we have a timekeeper that we can see? That's right, we have a timekeeper right there. And so everybody's got 4 minutes. There are slides involved. Whenever there are slides involved, it is tempting to go longer than the time allowed. But alas, I'm going to implore our elected officials to stick to the time, because with our 10-minute bonus, if everybody takes their 4 minutes, we will actually have 20 minutes of Q&A, which is really going to be the exciting part. So, the slides will be great. The 4 minutes will be great. It'll be 4 minutes. Okay, so, all right, you're with me? You guys are with me? So, and each of the mayors, it's terrific that everybody agreed to be here. Can you imagine the scheduling that was involved in getting this many elected officials in one place? So thank you for the time. So what we're gonna do, yes, right? Yes. We are going east to west in this journey, if you're wondering. We're not going in alphabetical order. We're going east to west. So, and with such limited time, I'm not going to be giving biographical information about each of the mayors. Just know that. I would love to, but time constraints. So again, 8 elected officials, 4 minutes. So we are going to start going east to west with Brentwood Mayor Bob Taylor. Mr. Mayor, take it away.
Good morning. Never had 4 minutes in my life. But welcome, and it's quite an honor and quite a pleasure to address a crowd of this size and be with my peers. As the slides progress, by the way, Brentwood is known to be inconspicuous. We're just a small farming community, so I dressed appropriately. But Brentwood, we're the middle of nowhere, but we are the center of everything. If you look at, well, you all can do that. I don't care. Anytime you feel like doing that, I really appreciate it. But if you look at the slide, it'll show you the regional area. I would like to state this, that every city up here will have opportunities for everyone. Jobs, that's the key element of this, and we all are unique to our region. And that's what makes this a very good thing. We work on regional economic development. East County is an opportunity as of now, not what happened in the past, but we are looking forward, and we are looking forward to the future. The future for our kids, our residents, for everybody who gets up and travels every day. At 4 o'clock, the traffic starts. I don't know if anybody knows that. I've done it all my life. And I've had a very short period. I'm pretty young. But the idea is that we need to make it better. We need to make better opportunities for what's going to happen. I went over for a TSA clearance. The gentleman that interviewed me lived in Brentwood. He leaves his house at 4 o'clock in the morning. Amazing. So people do that every day. And as I said, we are a corridor of opportunity. Brentwood has established a priority area. It's an opportunity site. We already have our specific plan complete. We're looking towards a multi-model transit station. How's this? Environmental clearance, complete. Roadway, utilities, already under construction. What's our target? 8,400 jobs or more. In fact, this planning project became award-winning, so we got an award for what we are attempting and planning to do. What kind of jobs are we targeting? We're looking for, by the way, John Muir is getting ready to spend about $20 million or more at the far end of East County, right off our Highway 4 bypass. That means they're doing, I have a minute left. Holy moly, okay. Then I'll let you read the slide yourself. There it is. If you can't read it, get back to me. I'll be colorfully walking around. We do have a slogan. It's better in Brentwood. And by gosh, if if you need a T-shirt from the mayor, he can provide you one, because I would proudly love you to wear it. But I want to thank everyone here for listening to us. And how many seconds? I got 20 seconds. Anyway, that's all good, and I really appreciate being here today and representing my city as the other cities present themselves also. Thank you so much.
Excellent. And a terrific model at that, role model. Thank you, Mayor Taylor. Now we'll move on to Oakley Mayor Claire Alluro.
Allura, yes, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm really pleased to be here and to be able to hear about all the great things that are happening in our area to bring jobs and job growth. This summit, along with other economic development meetings and groups, are so wonderful in that they not only highlight what each community is doing, but we work together as a region. And really, that is the key for us to have a regional push to make sure that any job that's in Brentwood, in Oakley, or whatnot is close enough where you can commute next door and it's still not over a bridge. It's not an hour and a half away. So that is really inspiring to me to see what everyone is doing out here in this area. So I'm going to preface these slides with saying that Oakley is just turning 20 years old. We are probably the youngest. We are the youngest in the county, one of the youngest in the state, and we've struggled a little bit to keep up with our neighbors, but we're getting there. And while some people use the analogy that we're the little train that could, and we're chugging along with the I think I can attitude, I think Oakley is now at a point where we're on the track and we're pulling up next to our neighbors and we're waving hello and riding on this path together. So I'll begin with our Oakley Logistics Center. It's located on the former DuPont site at Bridgehead Road. North Point Development, which is a nationally recognized development company out of Kansas City, has taken the lead on this, and they're eager to begin development on an industrial warehouse or distribution center. It's a 5-building project, which totals more than 2 million square feet. And similar projects have eked out at least 1,500 or more jobs. So this is on the way. The 5 buildings range in size from 230,000 square feet to 730,000 square feet. So there's a lot of room and potential in those buildings. North Point Development, they already have formal relationships with companies like GM, Amazon, BNSF Railroad, to name a few. So we anticipate that their reputation and their experience will lead other big name companies over to the Oakley Logistics Center. Our next project is the Oakley Medical Dental Plaza, which is located in downtown Oakley on Main Street, just northeast of City Hall. At this time, Oakley's quite underserved when it comes to medical and dental services. So not only will this 2,200 plus square foot building house up to 10 medical or dental offices and provide 35 to 50 full-time jobs, and not to mention part-time options also. It will also provide medical and dental services closer to home for our residents. It's expected that this project will bring over 150 daily patient visits to our downtown. So that's going to help support the restaurants and businesses that are already established there. And we have new ones popping up all the time. So this medical center will help our community in a multiple amount of ways. Next project is the Oakley Entrepreneur Center, also in downtown. It's an incubator site that small businesses and homegrown businesses can come and sort of network, and they have available private offices, co-working spaces, and conference rooms. So we just opened this up, and the Entrepreneur Center experience hopefully will allow businesses to grow and flourish and provide job opportunities for more as they hire with their expanding businesses. And last but not least, we circle back to my train analogy, and I introduce the last project, which is actually a commuter train service that will take you from Oakley to Oakland and vice versa in under an hour. So this is going to be operated by San Joaquin Amtrak, and the commuter train is a different alternative for commuters. Amtrak is leading the way to design the train platform, but they're very enthusiastic about working with us.
And we are enthusiastic about the Amtrak project, and that is time.
Thank you.
So thank you, Mayor Allura. So next we're moving on to Antioch Mayor Dr. Shawn Wright.
Awesome, thank you. It's really neat to see. The old way of economic development was city against city fighting over retail. That used to be East Contra Costa. And it's not that way anymore. Number one, retail is going out, and we really have city managers, economic development directors, and councils that are working together and really understand that if Oakley lands something great at their 100-acre flat development on the old DuPont property, it benefits us all. It helps every one of my citizens to be able to have a potential job. It helps my potential restaurants to be able to have those local jobs. Restaurants out in East Contra Costa do not do very well. You ask, well, why don't they do very well? Well, they don't do very well because nobody's here for lunch. And if you try to run a restaurant off a just night business, it's very difficult. Your margins are so small. So we've got to create those opportunities. And I don't care whether it's Brentwood, Antioch, Oakley, Pittsburgh, these are all wins. And so as we drive together looking at economic development from that regional basis, you really start to see opportunities. And when I say opportunities, right here, this is, Bob Taylor talked about this, but there really is a there. Everybody has looked at East Contra Costa for a long time as a cul-de-sac, as the end of the Bay Area. It's the out there. For those of you who drove over the hill, there's a hill that separates Central County from East County. And unfortunately, a lot of people see that hill as a true barrier. It's a mental barrier to that's too far away. And the truth is, if you're in Central County, getting out to Home Depot out in Pittsburgh is a 10 or 15 minute drive. You can get into traffic and take you longer to get that across town. And yet we see that barrier. And so we're trying to get people to understand there is a there, number one. Number two, as we open up the opportunity for development, you start to see us as a center, a connection point between Sacramento, the Central Valley, and the Bay Area. An opportunity for manufacturing, distribution, an opportunity to really be able to be centrally located to a ton of stuff. Now, in order for that to happen, we need your help in passing what's called Tri-Link 239, the Byron Highway. The expansion out of the backside of Brentwood connecting us to Tracy. That has to open up. From a goods movement standpoint, we have to connect into I-5. It's really important for our region for that to happen. And as we push forward, hopefully we can get your support in understanding the benefits of that and what that starts to do to our region. It starts to give the Bay Area a second way out instead of just the one way through Livermore. Antioch has gone through, and we've got a lot of transportation that's going on. BART just opened up. So for many of you, you say, well, yeah, who cares? It's so phenomenal to be able to get on BART, connect yourself right into San Francisco, and turn around and come back. There's so many things happening. We have a cannabis overlay district. I've got companies coming out of LA that are looking at our town right now, looking at East Contra Costa and saying, wow, there's an opportunity. They see the exact same thing that I see with being the central located to Sacramento Central Valley. There's so many opportunities. We're moving that way. We are excited about what's to come, about the jobs that are coming our way, the people that are looking and investing. We have 4 opportunity zones, which means that those investors who look at these opportunity zones can invest in our community and receive capital gains free tax incentives for the next 10 years. Some phenomenal things are happening in our area. Antioch started a rebranding effort. The rebranding effort is truly opportunity lives here. It lives right here. So many of you who are riding BART, you'll start to see these coming up in BART. You'll start to see these in San Francisco. We're looking at those businesses and we're telling them there's an opportunity out here. The cost is cheaper. Their homes are more affordable. Your workers are already here. Bring your business here as well. Opportunity works here. Opportunity lives here. Opportunity is in Antioch, and we'll keep pushing that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. We're continuing our journey westward, and now we have Pittsburgh Mayor Juan Antonio Bonala.
Thank you so much, everybody. Good morning. Being part of Pittsburgh, I have the honor of being here today, really talking about the hard work that our staff has done and our council as well, and the leadership in terms of the economic development space. So I'm very happy to share a couple projects and opportunities that we have going on in Pittsburgh. That's all right. That's all right. So we have 100 acres of city-owned property, formerly the golf course that was closed down in the city of Pittsburgh. So we've actually leveraged this into a private partnership, public and private partnership, to create a 100-acre technology park. So this partnership is teaming the city with the developers of the $525 million Transbay Cable project to attract data centers in the heart of Pittsburgh. So we're very excited about this project. The environmental process is underway, and Pittsburgh is also looking at creating an enhanced infrastructure financing district to offset infrastructure and other costs. This project is probably one of the largest projects we have in queue for economic development in Pittsburgh. And as I said, we're very excited about the jobs and as well as the revenue and growth that it'll bring to the city of Pittsburgh. Another opportunity that we have, given the industrial history of Pittsburgh, is 300 acres of industrial land along the Northern Waterfront. So this was formerly the NRG facility or the former Pittsburgh Power Plant, and it's actually for sale. So we are very interested, and we've been working with NRG to try and attract a new user to the location. It is not often that 300 acres of industrial land with deep water and rail access comes on the market. And so the city is very encouraged to see this development move forward under new ownership. One of the creative opportunities that we've had in the city of Pittsburgh is to actually have local control of Tidelands leases in Pittsburgh. So this was done as a way to be more responsive to the needs of Pittsburgh job centers on the waterfront. We became the trustee of the State Lands Commission and took over the Tidelands leases. So this essentially allows the city to work with our existing companies, be the lead agency for CEQA and local point of contact for any waterfront development that occurs in the city of Pittsburgh. Of course, we cannot grow jobs without growing our workforce. So we're very fortunate in the city of Pittsburgh and as a region to have Los Madonna College, which was recently ranked #6 community college in the nation. Yes, that's worthy of an applause. We have an excellent relationship with the college, and the college works with our local businesses to increase the labor pool through an advanced manufacturing curriculum. This has been a great generator of new employees throughout the Northern Waterfront, and we hope to continue this partnership and help support LMC in any way we can. Finally, the city created its own municipal utility to preserve existing businesses and attract additional development. Through public-private partnerships, PPC, or Pittsburgh Power Company, has developed over $2 billion worth of investment in Pittsburgh and offered below-market power for two of the city's largest employers. The utility has generated over $100 million in contractual revenue that is invested in incentives for retail and industry. And so lastly, given all these opportunities, we just are very excited about the future of Pittsburgh and where we're going in terms of economic development with some of these projects that I just shared. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Mayor Bonala is finished ahead of time, even with the pause for the LMC applause, because they do have a terrific community college district. We've heard a lot of information from half our panel so far. We're going to take a moment to let all of that good stuff sink in. We just want to acknowledge a couple of elected officials that did not get recognized the first time around. So can you please recognize Concord Council Member Tim McGallion and Pittsburgh City Council Member Chanel Scalise. And I think I totally screwed that up. I think it's Chanel Scales Preston. So I'm going to correct that. And she is also wearing her hat as a representative of Congressman Mark DeSaulnier. So Chanel, forgive me for screwing that up. So we're going to continue, and I'm also thrilled because our keynote speaker is even early. How great is this conference? So we're going to keep going and continuing to the west. We put Federal Glover in the middle of this. Obviously, he talked in his opening remarks about the length of his district and how that has really shaped his thinking and helped him be a leader on the Northern Waterfront. And so we wanted to, but we positioned him in Bay Point for the purposes of the east to west journey. And so we'll take it away, Supervisor Glover.
Thank you. It's no surprise that we're here today. This is a vision that's been looked at, but it's a reminder of what we used to be here in Contra Costa County and along the Northern Waterfront, where there was a very robust workforce that took place along the Northern Waterfront. But the vision is to bring that workforce back. to bring it back in a way that is going to be able to have people live, work, and play right here within the community in which they live. We knew that one of the issues was going to be transportation. So some of the earlier work was done around transportation and that transportation infrastructure. When we look at the different modes of goods movement, we are ready to make things happen. When we look at our rail, our water, our roads, and the roads have been a major problem for a number of years. They've gotten better. We still have work to do. Our transit system with eBART and our great opportunity with the Byron Airport. What else can you ask for when you talk about good movement and jobs opportunities right here in the Northern Waterfront? Here within the eastern end of the county where we sit today, there has been a lot of things that have taken place down through the years, but as stated by Mayor Wright, and I thank you for the fire that you have in you today, Mayor Wright, but a lot of people have looked at us as a stepchild for a number of years. That's no more the reality. The reality is that we are forced to be reckoned with, and we need to make sure that we continue to capitalize on the energy and fire that has gone into that by working together as a region. I wanted to make sure that I put that out there because we have to be supportive of one another. We have to be able to complement our cities by working with them. The Northern Waterfront Initiative, although it's a county initiative, it's encompassing of all the cities that's involved there. We knew that this waterfront initiative would not be possible without the work of with the cities, and that's why we are in total collaboration and partnership and looking forward to the MOU that will be put together that will even force the opportunity that much greater. But as we look at the opportunities that we have with the vacant lands and underutilized lands along the Northern Waterfront, the cities are going to play a very big role. You are hearing from the cities to the east thus far in terms of what some of the opportunities are that's taking place, and you will be hearing from the cities going to the west on what those opportunities are. So collectively, as we look at the great opportunities that are taking place, the county and its unincorporated area are also playing a major role. And when we look at the various roadways and the opportunities that we have with State Route 239 and our ability to also grow our airport to make sure that we are taking advantage of vacant lands that will offer greater opportunities, and you'll hear more about that a little bit later with the next panel. But I want to tell you that this is our opportunity. We are the force to be reckoned with, and it's about partnership, it's about relationships, it's about us all working together to make sure that we here in Contra Costa County are being recognized for what we have. We are not the home force for everyone. We're the workforce for everyone, and we want to make sure that the people that live here within this county have jobs that they can go to. We want to provide them with the necessary training for the jobs of the future, and my time is up.
Thank you, sir. All right. Thank you, Supervisor Glover.
And I'm sorry, I did have some PowerPoint, but we'll get to that later.
So now we're moving on to the Mayor of Concord. So it's my pleasure to introduce Mayor Carlin S. Obringer.
Well, good morning, everyone. And thank you very much for inviting Concord to participate in this collaborative and cross-pollinating conversation. I'm really amazed by the things that I'm hearing from my colleagues from other cities, and I couldn't agree more with Supervisor Glover about the need to work together to continue to move this region forward. So again, thank you for inviting Concord to be part of this conversation. And just a little bit about Concord. So we are centrally located, and we are the biggest city in the county. 1 in every 8 jobs in Contra Costa County is located within our community. And we're also proud that we have a 5-star retail destination. I hope that some of you have had the opportunity to visit the Veranda, our newest shopping center, as well as the Willows and some of our other shopping centers that we're continuing to invest in and to revitalize properties. The Veranda property, for example, had been a Chevron location, and so we've transformed it into its second life now, and it's doing very well. Also, we have, believe it or not, 3.5 million square feet of commercial office space, and 1.5 million of that is just in our downtown. So in downtown Concord, within walking distance of the downtown Concord BART station. So again, we're trying to do what we can to help create living wage jobs, not just for Concordians, but also for the residents of East County, because we understand that many of our Contra Costa residents right now, our East County and Central County residents, are having to commute up to 4 hours a day, round trip, if you count door to door. And so Concord really is trying to help be part of that solution, both today and in the future. And speaking of the future, whoops, I'm going backwards, excuse me. There we go, we've got it. Moving forward into the future. So Concord has declared itself a smart city of the future, and actually we followed the lead of the city of Oakley whenever they had done that a few years ago. And so what we're trying to do is highlight some of the things that we're doing today. Right now, we're the home to Go-Mentum Station, which again is another collaborative effort in partnership with the City of Concord, the Navy, and the Contra Costa Transportation Authority. And that is one of the few Department of Transportation authorized autonomous vehicle testing sites. And we're hoping that over time, through those efforts, we can help transform today what is the Diablo Valley, continuing to keep it the Diablo Valley, but also to transform this area into Autonomous Valley with all kinds of living wage jobs associated with that. Of course, we've got a big project called the former Concord Naval Weapons Station that we're working very hard to redevelop. And again, this is going to be a collaborative effort because we're going to be bringing 13,000 new households, but also we have the opportunity to have 84 million square feet of retail, commercial space, parks, and hopefully some kind of public university. And I'm in the process of spearheading a collaborative effort through a Blue Ribbon Committee to establish some kind of public institution of higher learning. And so we've got partners from labor, from higher education, from K through 12 education, from the transportation field, from healthcare, and we're looking to see how we can be part of the Northern Waterfront Initiative, how that campus visioning process can connect with what we're looking to do. So again, we're really pleased to be here and invited to be at the table, and we look forward to helping to be part of the solution and help make Contra Costa and East County and Central County an even better place to live, work, raise a family, and retire. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Obringer. And at this time, I'm as a proud Martesian by birth, I am proud to introduce Mayor Rob Schroeder.
Thank you so much. I hope I can figure out how to use this thing. So let me, nope. All right. I'll give you a quick overview of the city of Martinez. Martinez is a very old city. It was incorporated in 1876. It's about 13 square miles. We have approximately 37,000 people. We are a transit hub. We have an Amtrak station. We're on the waterfront, but we're mostly a built-out community. Our strengths include a historic downtown that's actually we're going through kind of a renaissance right now, and there's several reasons for that, but I don't have time to get into it. We've just completed over $30 million worth of park improvements throughout the city, including all the ball fields down at the waterfront. We're a potential ferry service location. In fact, I'm going to be going to speak to the WIDA board here in the next month or so to try to promote Martinez to a greater degree. And finally, we have an economic development department. In fact, Zach Seal, who's our economic development guru, he's holding his hand up, and also Christina Radcliffe, who's our economic and community development director. We had no department for decades, and now we have a renewed concentration on economic development. We have an action plan. Let's make sure I'm in the right spot. Am I? Yes. Okay. So we have finally adopted an action plan, and we're going to be looking at not only our downtown, but also different parts of the town close to the refinery. Our focus is, as I said, downtown in the Howe and Pacheco corridor. And the Howe and Pacheco corridor is just to the south of the Shell oil refinery. There's a 70-80-acre key industrial corridor, and it includes some county land, and it lacks from infrastructure. It really needs some improvement, but there's a lot of potential there for industrial services types of organizations. We have some challenges. We have a marina that silts up. It's 60 years old. We owe $4 million to the state of California on it, and it needs to be replaced. But we're going to be really concentrating on our marina over the next year or two. The marina lands have been granted to the state or to the city by the state through the public trust into perpetuity. We have to come up with a lands use plan to the State Lands Commission by the end of this year, and that will be followed by a lot of work on what do we want to see downtown, or what do we want to see at our marina. In our downtown, we are starting to market and brand it, and we also we are trying to encourage retention. I'm running out of time here, so I'm going to start going through it quickly. Anyway, so we have a lot of opportunities we're working on, and so we're also working with Northern Waterfront Economic Development Initiative. Diablo Tech Initiative hasn't been mentioned yet, but I know Jim Blair is here in the audience somewhere, and we're working together with the Central County cities are starting to work on that to try to bring those tech jobs to Diablo Valley. So with that, I think I'll just wrap it up here and say thank you very much for listening to me and attending. And try Martinez. It's a wonderful little place. We've really become kind of a mecca for breweries, and it's really become a great place to come and visit. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Schroeder. So, last but certainly not least, we are going to hear from Hercules Mayor Dan Romero.
Thank you very much. Welcome to Hercules. Established in 1905, we have done some rebuilding in this last decade, but Hercules is transforming into the transportation hub of the West County. We have Highway 4, Highway 80 meeting in Hercules. We have 2 railroad lines that meet in Hercules. And due to this, we are also the first intermodal station, which will include bus, the railroad, Amtrak, Capitol Corridor, with the ferry system. This is all going to be surrounded with 1,500, a master plan of 1,500 units. And around those 1,500 units is close to 1,000 other homes. So I think that at this point we are moving pretty great with that. So the next slide is talks about our Bayfront. Yes, I got it. All right. The Bayfront plan. The Bayfront plan was a master plan that was developed. We had one council that didn't want it, and we have a new council that did want it, and so this is transforming now. This is of the 1,500 units. 1,200 of those units will be rental units, which is a major deal nowadays with affordable housing. So this is also surrounded by a plot that was a prior refinery that was developed into homes. And this is also along the Bayfront Trail. This trail is hooking up to the Pinole Trail that just was completed, and will also hook up to the Rodeo portion of the trail, which the East Bay Regional Parks is going to be developing. I think I think it's already started, but I think the county was part of that. Hercules is also the home to the science bio node Bio-Rad. Bio-Rad is a multi-billion-dollar company global company, and they currently have 1,800 employees in Hercules, a company that has 8,000 employees worldwide. Bio-Rad is a very interesting company. They currently just went to the board of directors meeting. They are working on working with developing plants and making sure that they grow, and it's going to be worldwide. 2 years ago when I went, they had developed a system that can almost, it does a biopsy through your blood, and it detects if there's any possible cancer in your blood. I mean, it's amazing. That system has morphed into going into the Everglades, and now they know what lifestyle and what life is in the Everglades. So this is bioscience. And the last slide I will go to is our upcoming projects. So we're completing 144 unit by Muir Point. Safeway will be breaking ground next week, and we're going to have Safeway grocery store with 20 pumps of gas. We also have Hilltown coming in. That's going to be Italian type style. And we have Sycamore Crossings, which was old baseball field that was remediated. And we will have a hotel on that with retail and groceries and restaurants finally. So as Hercules sits as the last real full city in the West County, we are tied by the whole Northern Waterfront Initiative is about communities of interest. We are tied by Highway 4, the railroad, and by the refineries, and by the waterfront. And so the purpose of this is, I supported this initiative, is to bring jobs to Hercules and bring jobs regionally. And I think that's the whole purpose of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Well, great job, mayors. You stayed on time. We have some time for discussion. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to ask a total of 3 questions. And so it'd be great to, if it speaks to you and it's something you want to speak about, you don't all have to answer every question, but maybe we'll get responses from 2 or 3 of you on each question. But I have to tell you, sitting up here taking these notes, it is terrific. The shared message about regionalism and about the commitment to help each other and work across jurisdiction. So that's music to my ears, and I'm sure to everyone in the audience. So just wanted to, we did hear, for example, Mayor Bonala, you talked about that in Pittsburgh's considering an enhanced infrastructure financing district, EIFD, for a governance geek like me. That is awesome to hear about. So, but I did want to just give the opportunity for any of you to chime in on the question, what is the most creative or innovative thing your city has done to support jobs? A specific strategy. We'll start with you, Mayor Obringer.
Thank you. Well, I think there's a few things that we're doing. So the first I'd mentioned Momentum Station, which is still in progress, but having such a partnership between the City of Concord, CCTA, now AAA, and of course the Navy has had to be supportive as well. So that's laying the foundation for a whole future of jobs in an industry that hasn't quite been established yet. Another area that I'd like to highlight is our tourism improvement district that I'm extremely proud of. It's called Visit Concord. And this was something that previous council members worked on before I was elected, but it was a partnership between our economic development team that had support from our city council, as well as our local hotels. And so the idea is that whenever you stay at one of Concord's hotels, there is a fee that is attached, and that fee goes to fund, yes, exactly, and that goes to fund Visit Concord, and Visit Concord has been able to do things that the city wasn't able to do before and help to really market our community as a destination and help to bring in youth sports tournaments, smaller conferences, and it's really made a difference in driving traffic to the hotels, to our restaurants, and by nature of that initiative, helping to create more living wage jobs. So those are just 2 examples of things we're doing.
Great. Is there another mayor that wants to get in here? Go ahead, Shawn. Mayor.
Yeah, Antioch, you heard about our branding effort. We've got that going on. The other thing that we passed just last month at council was what's called the St. Mary's Project. So the Antioch Chamber, the city of Antioch, and St. Mary's College have come together to work with their seniors to be able to look at one of our opportunity zones and have their seniors come out and really do some design look at what could be done to really drive economic development in that region. So it's creating a relationship with our city and St. Mary's College, creating a relationship with the seniors at St. Mary's College. What I'm really excited about is if you really want to fill those incubators that we keep talking about, let's have incubators and those new students. Where are those students coming from? And I'm excited to be able to drive that relationship with St. Mary's College to be able to look and have those seniors actually looking in our community where they're going to be able to afford homes and maybe start their businesses as well.
Any other takers on the question of, go ahead, Mayor Bonala.
Yeah, so I think from that standpoint, we have a really exciting project, a courtyard by Marriott being built right next to our new Pittsburgh Center BART station. And so really the idea there in that area is to have a transit-oriented development. And so when this project came forward, it was what we believe to be the kickoff to having that development start in that area. And so one of the things that we did to help the development move forward was to leverage the extra 2% TOT, or transient occupancy tax, that we had approved by the voters to help offset some of the costs of development. I mean, I think that shows that Pittsburgh has been really aggressive when it comes to economic development and moving projects forward. And so that shows as a good example and commitment to something that we felt was creative to get a courtyard by Marriott built and to start and spark development in our TOT area.
Great. Last call for that question, anybody? Okay, Mayor Schroeder.
As I mentioned, Martinez is built out. We have really no place to grow. But what we are looking at doing now is putting in TOT, transit occupancy, or not TOT, I'm sorry, transit housing. And we have a lot of underutilized space in our downtown, and we are just starting our economic development plan. So one of the things that we did a few years ago that really spurred some economic development was to pass an unreinforced masonry ordinance. And that required for property owners over a period of time to reinforce their beautiful old historic brick buildings for safety, for earthquake safety. We got a lot of groans and moans, and so what it did do is that the property owners that wanted to stay, they fixed their buildings up, and then those that didn't, they sold, and new investment came in, and that's what's really driving the economic development engine in Martinez. As I mentioned, we just have a brand new staff here, so we're on the I'd say the foundation of building a lot of things for the future. So some of the things, and one other thing we did, a very small item which really spurred economic growth in the downtown, was putting in flex dining spaces in the parking areas. And it opened up square footage for a lot of businesses to grow. But what we're looking at doing is bringing housing in, because we're the county seat. We have a lot of employees that work for the county of Contra Costa, and they drive from somewhere else. So I think one way we can really help transportation issues and county government, as well as Kaiser and some of the other the refinery, is to bring in new housing, and that's reuse of underutilized spaces in the downtown near the Amtrak station.
That's great. I'm actually going to switch gears here. And actually, so Mayor Romero mentioned Bio-Rad, which is a terrific large company doing great things. I know they partner with the Contra Costa Economic Partnership on some of our summer camps, so I was glad that you mentioned them. So just wanted to get a little bit more specific, and was interested in seeing if any of you would like to share a success story about partnering with a large employer. Let's go with Mayor Romero.
So several years ago, City of Hercules purchased a couple of buildings, and we leased those back out to Bio-Rad. And recently, at the stakeholders meeting, the president of the company had mentioned that we're trying to talk about maybe renewing the bond, which would lower his cost, or selling them buildings. And he said, when we first approached them 10 years ago about leasing those buildings, he really didn't need it, but because they've grown so much, those buildings were valuable. So the idea of seeing ahead forward and purchasing, building two buildings, office complex, to help your partner in city and use that with bond money was very valuable. And I think those will be the continued things that will be occurring in Hercules. We also have the waterfront, which we are now looking to put a couple of hotels along the water. That project right now will be a catalyst. We don't We don't, in the Bay Area, especially in Contra Costa, we don't do enough building along the waterfront. And to have the train station with the ferry, with the bus service, our link service, is used at probably at a 90% rate. We are talking about expanding more of those bus lines inside the city so we can take more cars off the freeway. And those are the partnerships that we work not only with the private, but with the public companies such as the bus line.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anyone else want to get in there about a partnership with a large employer? Go ahead, Mayor Obringer.
Thank you. I don't know how many of you might have heard of Cirrus Corporation, but that's really a big success for us in the city of Concord. They were first established in 1992, and now they have over 200 employees, and the city of Concord has worked with them over time, 3 different times, to help them to relocate and expand. And for those who haven't heard of Cirrus, they were mentioned in the news during the most recent Olympics because they have a technology that helps to improve the safety whenever someone is undergoing a blood transfusion. And so right now, they're in the process of getting ready to move into one of our Class A office spaces. They've now leased even more space, 85,000 square feet. And so that's a big success story about helping a company grow and expand. And they are now publicly traded, and they are headquartered in Concord. So we're very proud of that.
Great. Anyone else want to get in on the larger player? Go, Mayor Taylor.
Boy, you kept me quiet for a while. Hard to do for me. How's this? LMC is putting a brand new campus in Brentwood. I have to bring that up. It's going to be state of the art, and it is the talk of the town. And I'm sure what it's going to impress as this campus grows, which the 2-year colleges are beginning to be very, very popular because we can't afford automatically our kids sometimes to go right into a 4-year institution. So we look like we're going to open that mid-2020, and it's going to be with quite a great anticipation because we see that as a job training center because the kids are going to look around and we can actually, for this whole region, it's really going to help us. It's going to help all of us. As Shawn said, what happens in Brentwood affects Antioch, Pittsburgh, the whole bit, and I totally agree. There's one more, if you don't mind, and it's a big one. We have things in Brentwood we call farms. They've been around since... They've been around, I think, since the early 17th century. We also really promote our farmers and what they grow. A thing called Brentwood Corn is probably one of the most popular things out. I know every mayor, I have to bring corn every year. It's my job. In fact, I even send the new Governor Newsom a crate of corn at least once a year. Hey, you do what you got to do, and it works. But what is happening? We're trying to do farm to fork to farm, however you wish to eat it. We want to bring it to our restaurants, and this type of thing has gotten to be very popular in the restaurant business. But we also have cherry packing places, and believe it or not, we have around approximately 200,000 persons come to the farms in Brentwood every summer. And so we need to utilize that, and now they can actually get in and out. So that's always a good thing. With that, I got a story to say about getting in and out. I lost by the largest landslide in the history of Brentwood. I had a slogan when I first ran. When you get in Brentwood, you can't get out. Once you're out, you can't get back in. Well, guess what? Our entire region now has expanded and grown. You can get in and out of East County, by God, and you can do it fast. Pretty soon we're going to be able to put them on boats, and you'll be able to really move around. So.
Okay, well, we did, you covered a lot of ground there in that answer about what you're doing with large employers, but obviously they're doing tremendous things in Brentwood, and I'm glad you mentioned the farms and what you're doing there. We have time for one question. I want to make sure everyone gets a chance. And, we're all here today spending this time because we realize that this work is hard. and it hasn't, the Northern Waterfront Initiative has been around for a while, and we want to be part of the solution. And so what do you think are the biggest challenges jurisdictions face in terms of attracting and growing jobs? And it could be regulatory, it could be political, it could be financial. Love to hear your thoughts about the challenges, which is an invitation to be part of the solution. You want to start with that, Supervisor Glover?
Yes, all of the above. And one of the things that we look to do, and certainly as partners, is to streamline those regulations and to be able to also work together as a coordinated effort to make sure that the things that are missing here within this region, that we're able to bring them about and to have a bigger voice within not only the region here, but on a statewide level, because as I stated earlier on, one of the things we've been is very much neglected from a total process. And as we start to merge into that process, we want to make sure that the voices are very consistent, that we're working very collaboratively, and that we have put our parochialism to the side, that we can support one another. And that's going to be key and very much important. The other thing I think when we talk about jobs coming here is to make sure that we have the proper training in place and a ready workforce to go to work. And so when we look at our opportunities for further education, whether it's done through Lawson Honors College or other training institutes that's in place, we look at the entrepreneurship that we could bring to this area, and that's going to be big and very important, because as technology change, we have to be able to capture that and to be able to have a workforce that's going to be able to meet the demand of the future jobs that are coming our way.
Great. Thank you. Mayor Alluro.
So one of the biggest challenges, at least in Oakley and maybe some of the areas where there is a lot of land for companies to come, is the fact that we don't have existing buildings. So ground up construction is a daunting task for any company, and that I feel is a deterrent for many to want to invest because they have to literally start from scratch. But I know that our economic development team, all of our staff, and I know in our neighboring cities, are very willing and open to working with companies and to do what we can to make the transition of bringing the jobs over the hill easier. So I think for farther out east, that is one of the biggest battles that we face, is that we don't have existing buildings, and people see the land, but the whole task of starting from the ground up might be a little bit daunting.
Anyone else? Mayor Romero wanted to get in on the biggest challenges.
Thank you. So Contra Costa County has one thing that a lot of counties don't have, and that's affordable housing. And as a county and part of this initiative, that should be key. When developers or business owners are coming in, the first thing they're looking for is their people they're bringing in. Are they going to be able to purchase a house? Are they going to be able to live in the area? And we provide that. And I think that is number one. It's also what you hear time and time again is all the governmental issues that we have to go through. I think the state is talking about CEQA. We have to work with the county so the county has a bigger voice for the cities to try to get some of these roadblocks and bring it in development. I attended a groundbreaking for a fire station. The fire station was having to pay some regional taxes, and that's a fire station. So we need to start thinking about what we're doing when a fire station is having to pay fees to other government agencies. It sort of mutes, it takes away from the money that they have to build the station. So those are some of the things that we have to think about, and I do think that working together here and bringing all the cities together and with the county, it makes us a little bit stronger when we go to the county. I've also noticed recently our elected officials, the assembly members, state senators, we've gotten a lot more powerful as we have assembly members that are in different departments with the state. So as a region, yes, Contra Costa is not the forgotten person. And the one thing that we have that's unique is our affordable housing prices. Thank you.
So we'll give Mayor Shawn Wright of Antioch the last word on this question about the biggest challenges you faced in terms of growing jobs.
Yeah, regulations. We have to get to the point where we see business and let it be okay for them to try to make money. We extract as much as we can from new businesses, whether it's CEQA, environmental, whether it's the fees, the hookup fees. We ask so much of them that when they build, to build out in East Contra Costa from the ground up, after all the fees and the cost of construction, the cost of labor, it's cheaper to go into Concord and use Class B old space because it already exists and it was built before all those regulations and all that cost. And so we've implemented so many regulations, so many hurdles that it's easier for those businesses not to build out here. And so we want businesses, we keep saying, come out here, build, and yet we put all of these requirements on that make it really hard and take a lot longer to build. And because of that, I think we're seeing less investment because ultimately for them, if they see a way to make money, they'll invest. If we make that too difficult for them, they'll go somewhere else.
Okay, great. Can I get a big round of applause for all of our mayors? So I inherited something. We were ahead by 10 minutes. We're ahead by 2 minutes. And so what we're going to do is excuse the mayors here, although we need to hold on to Federal Glover. So as the mayors are getting up and going back to their seats, I just want to give one more round of applause to the mayors. Great work. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Supervisor Federal Glover, who has the great honor of introducing our keynote speaker today. Thank you very much.
While everyone is returning to their seat, I would like for you to give another hand to the cities. I think what we heard today was engagement, that people are on board. The vision I had a number of years ago is a shared vision. So one of the things that will happen when people are on the same page is that movement will happen. And I think you heard from the cities today that we're on the move. So let's give them again a round of applause. We talk about the things that keep us from making some of these things happen and regulations, and as we look at other things that impact us from making those jobs come to this area. And I know that when we work together, we make good decisions. I want to say that we have the legislative body and the state and the federal that are working with us and have all signed on to this, and I am just very proud of the fact that we're all on the same page when it comes to understanding that we're housing rich and job poor, and we're going to turn that around. And so I'm so proud today to have the mayors here today to once again just put a print on it. And as we go forward and we sign the MOU, that's going to give us the legs that we need to really get out there and start things happening. But at this time, it is my pleasure, very pleased to introduce our keynote speaker for today, an elected official who has been a small business owner, a business advocate for minority business owners, a county supervisor for the city and county of San Francisco, a member of the state assembly. She is a certified public accountant who worked on online sales tax equity and cannabis regulations as part of her work as an elected member of the California Board of Equalization, and authorized 60 bills signed into law during her time in the assembly. We have seen a great deal of change here in the Northern Waterfront region of Contra Costa County, especially up in the eastern end, and we know that much more changes are coming. With our speaker track record of public service, making a difference, I was inspired with us today to hear from her vision on how the state of California can support the economy. now that she is the head banker in the world's fifth largest economy, elected as state treasurer last year with the most votes of any candidate in the state's history, please welcome our own Bay Area State Treasurer Fiona Ma to the Northern Waterfront.
I got an escort.
Huh?
I got an escort.
You deserve it.
Thank you so much. It's great to see so many friends and all the mayors that are up here, and I'm going to touch upon some of their comments, and of course, Federal Glover, long-term leader, visionary, and when I got elected to the state treasurer 5 months ago, I said, I have money. I am your state banker. What can I do to help you? We have grants, we have loans, I issue bonds. And Mr. Glover says, you need to come to see what I've got going. Contra Costa, we need your money, we need your help, specifically this Northern Waterfront project. And I came down, my deputy chief over housing and economic development, Juan, came down, and that's what it's all about, right? Today is about three things. So growing up, my dad always has his threes. I don't know if any of you are like this, but it's easy to remember. So what I got out of today was collaboration, cooperation, and communication. And a lot of times we don't communicate necessarily with each other at the local level or local to state level or local, state, and federal level. And this is what forums like this today are seeking to change, as well as building those bridges and making those connections. So I am here because Mr. Glover told me 6 months ago that he is doing this, that I have to put it on my calendar, that this is a priority for the region, and we are in our treasurer's office really looking to see how we can help with this region. And from the 7 mayors that were just up here, I heard many things in their challenges remarks: housing, education, agriculture, small and large businesses, hotels, breweries. How about wineries? I didn't hear wineries, but I know I've been to wineries out here. Autonomous vehicles, economic development and training, ground up construction, and regulations amongst some of the issues. And I want to tell you that the treasurer's office, the governor's office, the controller's office, all of us have some of these resources to partner with you to make some of these challenges hopefully go away. So a little bit about the treasurer's office. Over $2 trillion goes through my office every year. We manage $100 billion in state and local money. Many of your local governments may have money in our coffers that we are managing. And we also issue and oversee about $90 billion in bonds. Some of the programs I think that are important here today, just to put into your your purview, the California Tax Credit Allocation Committee and the California Debt Limit Allocation Committee are 2 agencies that I chair, and they oversee the 9% and the 4% affordable housing tax credits. So any affordable housing developers here in the room? No? Okay, well, hey, anybody want to build housing? Come see me, because we do provide these credits to help some of these projects pencil. I also oversee the California Alternative Energy and Transportation Financing Authority, which provides tax incentives to green manufacturers across the state. The California Pollution Control Financing Authority We provide tax-exempt bond financing for infrastructure projects, which help reduce waste and clean the environment. And I also have the California Transportation Financing Authority, which provides tax-exempt bond financing for transportation infrastructure projects approved by Caltrans. Then I have a bunch of different small business programs under my CalCap, or Capital Access Program, and it's designed to guarantee low-interest loans to small businesses. And a couple of my new programs that we are promoting, Cal Savers. So any employer who does not offer a retirement plan to their employees will now, starting June 1st, eventually have to sign up their employees with our Cal Savers plan that will encourage the employees to save. This plan will stay with their employees as they move from job to job, so that is very important. But as many folks have talked about, retirement. How are we going to keep our residents in their homes, in their communities, as long as possible? And so part of our motivation and priority is to help them save. Another one is Cal Able. It is a program that will allow people with disabilities diagnosed before the age of 26 years old to be able to open up a bank account in their own name. For so many years, if someone had a disability and was getting some sort of benefit, people would say, don't put anything in their name. They should have no assets. Don't leave a home to them. And that has really created problems for many folks. So now people can save up to $15,000 in their own name without jeopardizing any of the benefits. And today, I presented a check to an elementary school in Oakland through the ScholarShare 529 program. How many of you have heard of ScholarShare 529, right? Student loan debt these days is on average in California $22,000 per student that graduates. And we are really trying to promote parents and grandparents and godparents and aunts and uncles to open up accounts to save for their the next generation so they don't have to get into so much debt. And another program that we are working closely with your supervisor is on these opportunity zones. I understand the Northern Waterfront area has 11 opportunity zones. So in California, we have 879 opportunity zones. Governor Newsom is a big advocate for full conformity to the federal tax laws and benefits that would enable us here in California to attract as much capital as we can to improve and finish all the projects that all of the mayors have talked about. And so we in the Treasurer's Office are working closely with the Governor's Office of Business, I guess it's Go Biz, where they are working on the policy, and the Treasurer's Office is going to be working on the outreach to try to match up those opportunity fund investors with shovel-ready projects here in your different areas. So if you have projects, and I'm sure Supervisor Glover will also let us know projects that are ready to go, we are going to try to do that matchmaking so we can get some of these projects done. In addition, I met some of the mayors when I was on the State Board of Equalization. I know Brentwood Mayor Bob Taylor. Where's Bob? He left? Bob, okay. Well, you can tell him I said nice things about him. So we did 2 small business seminars and I think a veterans or nonprofit seminar in the city of Brentwood, where we got an opportunity to learn about all the activity that he has been promoting. And we are, again, offering to do small business seminars, financial literacy, veterans, nonprofits, whatever you would like us to cater a seminar, free workshop seminar. We are not pitching any companies. We are actually going to inform your website they should use where they can get a free credit report every year, what helps them with moving their credit, how they should get a loan. And talking about also home ownership, we issued $180 million to the CalVet Home Loan Program. So if you are any vets or have any friends, family, or constituents who are veterans, go ask them to apply now, because I just replenished the fund. And this is eligible for any veteran who did not get dishonorably discharged. It is not based on FICO scores. We will provide the down payment, help them with their closing costs, and their loan amount will be based on their amount they can pay. So not necessarily on a W-2, but whatever type of benefit. They may have just Social Security, they may have other type of income, but their loan is a long-term 20-year loan or 30-year loan based on their ability to pay. And then the Cal HFA program. I just learned about this, and I've been in government for 20 years, that the Cal HFA program has a very robust down payment, first-time homeowner down payment assistance program. Well, they will provide the down payment assistance, the closing costs, and Cal HFA is competitive with any of the financial institutions out there. So please help us promote those programs. And again, my mantra since I served on local elected county board of supervisors, served in the assembly, was your friendly tax collector on the state board of equalization. I believe that government needs to be accountable to the people. We need to be customer friendly. We need to answer your phone calls, get back to you, and we need to take our programs and services to the community versus waiting for all of you to log on a website or hear word of mouth all the programs and services that we have. So the governor just issued his May revise yesterday, and we are $3 billion over our projected revenues. So thank you all for here in California for keeping businesses and jobs and paying your taxes. But again, housing is one of the major issues that we need to grapple with. The governor wants to create 3.5 million homes by 2025. So that is 500,000 homes each year. For those of us who are in the housing business and watching, not easy, but at least he is setting that standard and those goals. And like one of the, I think, Hercules mayors said, we need to compromise at this time. We need to come together. We need to get out of our corners. We need to make some adjustments so that we can get these projects done in this given time where we are in a state of prosperity. We are doing well as a state, and we should take advantage of all of the tax revenues that are coming in, as well as the opportunity zone money that is out there to get these projects done. So I am very honored to be here as your 34th state treasurer. I love, love, love my job. Number one, my parents are finally proud of me. That I am not wasting my education and my professional experience. Number two, I feel like my experience qualifies me to actually sit in this role and have a very global, holistic view of what my job is. And number three, I hope I never have to go back and do tax returns again. So I thank you all for voting for me. I love my job. I love being your state treasurer, and I am open to any questions you may have. Any questions? Okay, my friend Tom.
Hold on for the microphone.
Hi, Tom Garino with PG&E. It seems like your department is, and maybe that's why Supervisor Glover planned this, really, you oversee a lot of your regional multidisciplinary. Can you talk a little bit about all the cities seem to have great projects going on within the city, but I didn't hear really a lot about, coalescing that into a region and how your department can play a role in that?
Yes. As I mentioned, my deputy, Jovan AG, has come and met with Supervisor Glover and really trying to figure out what projects are shovel ready or what are some of the obstacles that folks are facing. One of the mayors talked about ground up construction, and the governor's office has heard that plea and has put $800 million into infrastructure. Some of you have projects, right, with developers, but the infrastructure is too expensive. So government is the governor's adding $800 million into his budget for infrastructure investment. We also, in our office, have overseen the brownfield remediation program. So for those projects that are already in an urban center and you want to rebuild over it, sometimes the land needs to be cleaned, and our office oversees that, and we are asking the governor to replenish our brownfield. The governor's also putting $500 million more into the low-income tax 4% tax credit for workforce housing. And that money, if approved and signed into the budget, will be distributed on a first-come, first-served basis. So not a competitive process like many of our other programs, but really on a first-come, first-served basis. So yes, I oversee not only the bonds and the financing and the investments, but I chair 16 different committees. I probably sit on another 10 as a member of CalPERS and CalSTRS and CalHFA, for example. So yes, we are involved in everything. We could be involved in everything. So please reach out to us, call us. I have great members of my team. Noah Starr, you can get his card. He loves to get phone calls. He loves to show up at events and ribbon cuttings. But yes, we are here, and I think unlike other treasurers who may not have been as visible or accessible, I will give you all my cell phone number if you want to text me. That's the way you can reach me. But I do believe that my office can do so much in terms of helping with all the projects here in this room that everybody is concerned about, supporting, or wants to make happen. Thank you, Paul. Tom, sorry.
Hello, I'm Keith Archuleta. I'm president of Emerald HPC International. We're former consultants with the county with the Human and Community Capital plan strategy for the Northern Waterfront. And congratulations, by the way, of finally getting your parents to be proud of you. I know we're all proud of you. I just wanted to see if you could say a little more about the importance of small business development to the state of California and the whole idea of business retention and expansion in terms of really building the economy. If you could speak to that. And also if there's any role that you can play in supporting that locally, particularly in terms of being able to support hard to serve and underserved communities who you don't want to leave out. We don't want to leave out of any kind of growth and expansion that we see coming with the Northern Waterfront. We want to make sure that everybody gets brought along.
So thank you. So I started my career working for one of the big 8 accounting firms, doing tax accounting. And real estate accounting. And then I left after 5 years, started my own practice, and became president of the Asian Business Association. And that was the first time I got involved in politics or public service at the age of 28, having to represent small women and minority-owned businesses primarily at the local level, went to Sacramento, went to lobby President Clinton at the time. And so that is still kind of my core and my passion, is looking out for small businesses. So some of the things that we are working on in my office in particular is that we have a time deposit program where we deposit money into local community banks. And I just had a meeting with my team the other day, and I said, well, I want to know which community banks we have put money into. They have to be headquartered here in California, and they have to have a certain, rating. But I've asked them to look at those communities that are underserved and perhaps need some money for their financial institutions so that they can loan out for small businesses or home mortgages or, car loans. So that's one of the ways, and I'm looking at all of the banks that are in the program and trying to do more outreach to other banks around the state who may not know that this money is available to deposit into their banks. At the Treasurer's Office, we also want to put together like a small business registry of people who are able and available to provide all sorts of services for many of the programs that we are running, whether it is housing, whether it is, these the CalCap programs that we have, because a lot of times members will come and say, hey, I'm interested in building affordable housing. How do I do it? And before, you could go to the redevelopment agencies, right, where they had experts who could walk you through the paperwork and the application process, right? And due to the demise of the redevelopment agencies, there's not a lot of people who can help, right? Government employees are pretty busy with their own workload, but there are probably a bunch of you here in this room that have that specialty that can help folks work through the process and get this money out faster. So those are just two things that I am working on. And then the governor's office, through his Go Biz agency, appointed a new director, Lenny Mendonca, who is trying to also figure out how Go Biz could be better in terms of attracting, keeping businesses here, but also in the area of small business. And we are working with them since we believe Go Biz should be the one-stop shop, trying to maybe move some of our programs that could help the governor streamline some of the processes. Instead of having to go to two agencies, they can just go to one agency and just, manage all the programs and the money and the grants and the loans. So we are working with the governor's office on that.
Thank you, Madam Treasurer, for taking the time to be here today. My name is Ron Reagan, and I serve on two county commissions. One is the Airport Advisory Committee. The other is the Airport Land Use Commission. My concern is, well, when I hear that you have $800 million earmarked for infrastructure, I begin to salivate. I'm looking at the potential. We have this project called the 239 project, the Tri-Link Freeway project, whereby some of the members of the Transportation Authority have pulled out the connector road from Vasco Road to the Byron Airport as a standalone project from the Tri-Link project. That was funded in the last election. My question of you is, how would the infrastructure funds apply to the connector road that needs to be developed and increasing the viability of the Byron Airport?
Right. So the governor just issued his May revise yesterday. I believe it is online. So you should go and see what is written up in that section for that amount of money. And if it is not clear, please reach out to me. I will connect you with the person in his office that can better explain what the funding is for. But now is a good time to weigh in. So if you have those projects, you want to email me saying, hey, would this infrastructure money apply here? It would be really helpful. We've been short this money. We've been waiting. And if you can make sure there's some flexibility for this money to go to projects like yours, that now is the time to do it. And thank you for salivating. That's why I'm here, to hopefully make everyone in this room salivate and go, yes. Any other questions? I have one more time. Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming to visit us today out here. My question is that there's been a lot of work to get transportation, the freeways, the BART connections. We have low-cost housing. There's land available. The counties and the cities are sort of all unified in that. There's opportunity zones, and yet there's not a rush for investment. So with your former accounting background and your experience with working with businesses, what might you speculate on as the missing link?
Yeah, so we have been waiting for the IRS guidelines to come out regarding opportunity zones. So based on the proposed guidelines, folks, put their money, on their tax returns, wanted to defer their capital gains, opened up opportunity zone funds, but nothing has been finalized, I think for a number of reasons. We had a break in Congress meeting on time. I think there's been a lot of controversy out there, but the IRS last week, I believe, issued not final, but proposed close to final regulations. So I think the community, the Opportunity Zone Fund folks are feeling a little bit more comfortable in terms of moving forward the investment. So right now the money is just sitting in these funds, but nobody has deployed the capital because they're not sure what the final regs are going to look like. But as I understand, they're feeling a little bit more comfortable and they may start deploying the money. So that is one reason that you haven't seen a lot of money come out. But once that does, and once everybody starts deploying the money, they have certain timelines so that they're going to have to put the money into different projects. And that's where we are trying to prepare everyone to tell us, what are your shovel-ready projects? Let's get them in the queue. Let's make sure we're all on the same page. These are the top 20 that are ready to go. So when these funds are saying, hey, what do you have, Ms. Ma? Oh, there's a hotel. There's this type of project, that they can invest in. But your local community also has to watch out, right, for your local community to make sure that we are taking care of folks, whether it is local hire programs, creating, local training, economic development programs, making sure that we are not displacing the local government. And that is a big concern for these opportunity zones, is that there's going to be too much displacement, but that's where you all have to come in and just make sure that you are watching, right? The type of projects that are looking for opportunity zone monies, that there are checks and balances, and that people are not just going to come in and flip properties, but that they are really going to attract folks who want to be long-term players, who have the vision. And if California does conform to the federal opportunity zone tax laws, many of the California investors would rather invest here in California versus investing their money outside where they just don't know what's going on, but they'd rather invest here in their backyard. And that, again, assures that there's more commitment to what California is doing, the vision, and the future for California. So all of this is tied together, but we are kind of at that point where we're just about ready to move on the money, but the money hasn't started flowing in yet to these projects. And I'm seeing my time is up, so thank you very much. I will be here for a while, and I have business cards, more than happy to give them to you, and I look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Treasurer Ma. We really appreciate you coming out today and speaking with us and supporting growing this region, the Northern Waterfront Economic Development. Also want to backtrack and thank Kristen Connolly for her help in moderating our panel earlier. And as with most of us who wear many hats, we also realize that Kristen also serves on the Akalani's Unified High School District as a board member, so we wanted to acknowledge her for that. And whenever we have events of this size, we always have folks sneaking in, or we sometimes miss folks. So we wanted to acknowledge Diana Beckton, our district attorney, who also is here today with us. One of the amazing things about this region and the Northern Waterfront Economic Development Initiative that I heard that came across through the speeches from the mayors, I know Treasurer Ma has 3 things, I have 4, but the 4 things that I heard was progress, innovation, vision, and opportunity. And to me, what that speaks of is regionalism. And that is, it was shown over and over again in every one of the speeches that came forth and the answers to the questions and in what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. I wanted to applaud all of the cities and the county for their regionalism and working towards progress, innovation, vision, and opportunity, because that's what's going to take us to the next level. So if we can give everyone a hand. So back to the script. We are very fortunate to have champions like the treasurer in Sacramento, as well as our elected officials in Congress. And while it is a very busy season for them in Washington, and they couldn't be with us in person, we do have video greetings from all 3 of those folks. First up is Contra Costa's own Congressman Mark DeSagne, followed by a video by State Senator Steve Glacier. And if we can have those videos.
Hi, this is Congressman Mark DeSagne, and I wanted to welcome you all to this forum for the Contra Costa Northern Waterfront Initiative for Economic Development and Jobs. We're lucky to have many things in Contra Costa: an amazing workforce, access to some of the best research facilities in the world in the 2 labs near us, and of course the best public university in the world at UC Berkeley. But we also have these deep water ports that historically have served Contra Costa so well and need to be updated. As I went around the country with colleagues on our Future Work, Wages, and Labor Initiative, we learned around the country how important it is to use our natural resources and our economic advantages strategically to make sure that there are good, high-paying jobs and economic development in communities across the country. In Contra Costa, we're lucky. So thank you for providing the leadership on this initiative, and best wishes for today.
Greetings from the state capitol, Senator Steve Glacier, and it's great to be with you, at least via video, for the Northern Waterfront Initiative conversation that you're having today. It's a very important conversation. I certainly want to give a shout out to Supervisor Federal Glover for his leadership on this for many, many years. He's been a great champion of this effort. Also want to say thank you to Supervisor Burgess for her great support for the work that's being done. Anytime I have a company visiting me here in Sacramento, I find the opportunity to talk with them about the Northern Waterfront. It is such a ripe area for relocation or new location for business, with the opportunity for a port, deep water port, and the railroads and the highway systems, that it's really a prime place for economic development and the wonderful jobs that we would like to see happen there. We talk a lot about greenhouse gas emissions and climate change, and we need to have these jobs locating where people live, and that's Antioch, that's Pittsburgh, that's the Oakley area. So I applaud all that you're doing, the conversations that you're going to have today. I'm your partner in this effort, so I hope that you'll count on me to be there with you as you work this issue forward. And I thank you for listening to me and for all that you're doing.
All right, we gave you guys an extra 5 minutes of networking time, so we're going to get started and try to stay on schedule. I'd like to welcome everyone back and thank you all for staying. We can now lock the doors and make sure no one can run away for the rest of the afternoon. I want to invite you in thanking our lunch sponsors. I'm going to read off those organizations and their representatives. We've got Kaiser Permanente, represented here by Donna McGee. Delta Diablo, represented by Angela Lowry. The Contra Costa Economic Partnership, represented by Lindy Lavender. The Workforce Development Board, represented by Patience Odofu. and the East Bay Economic Development Alliance as presented here today by their new executive director, Stephen Bader. If we can give them all applause. Also, another new face has joined us for the afternoon. I'd like to recognize Antioch Councilmember Lamar Thorpe. You ready? All right, we're going to go to the next thing on our agenda, and that is going to be a second video greeting from Councilman Mike Thompson. Excuse me, Congressman Mike Thompson.
Good afternoon. I'm sorry I can't be with you today, but work has me in Washington, D.C. for legislative votes. Thank you, Supervisor Glover, for convening this forum and for your hard work on this initiative for the past 6 years. Your vision and hard work have brought us to an important stage, and we're so excited to see what we can accomplish with this initiative. This work is about supporting jobs and bringing in even more jobs to our local community. It's about boosting our local economy, and it's about what can be accomplished when all partners work together. Local, county, state, and federal officials came together with business leaders and local stakeholders to say, what can we do to invest in an economic future here on the waterfront? And how can we reinforce the jobs we already have here, jobs that will give folks in our community good wages and a chance to get ahead? This initiative has an ambitious goal, 18,000 new jobs by 2035, but a goal we can all feel good about working towards. This is what government is about, the good that can come of collaboration and teamwork. Know that I'm working in Washington to ensure that we pass federal legislation that supports our effort, and on policies that boost investment in infrastructure and to ensure we're best using all the resources we have. So thank you so much for all of your work to get us to this day. Congratulations and keep up the hard work. And thank you very much.
All right, our next session is a conversation about emerging technology in Contra Costa County. This will be led by Supervisor Diane Burgess with Ivan Ramirez from CCTA and Chris Anderson from 3DR. Supervisor Ivan and Chris, please take the stage.
Hi, my name is Diane Burgess. I'm County Supervisor in District 3 for Contra Costa County. I believe emerging technologies will create new opportunities for communities that pursue them. So I started a partnership with the FAA to facilitate drone testing in Contra Costa County. The use of drones will make some work safer and more efficient, but most importantly, it'll bring jobs to Contra Costa County. You know, Contra Costa County is in a unique position because we're so close to all this innovation that's happening. We have 2 airports, Buchanan Field and the Byron Airport, that offer different environments for testing. And we're in the center of one of the fastest growing economies in the world. The pace of change with new technologies, autonomous vehicles, drones, artificial intelligence, and machine learning, it's exponential. Even the smartest people in these industries don't know exactly where these changes will lead. My perspective is to keep an open mind, to be agile and ask questions, and to always keep front and center what these changes would mean for the people I've been elected to serve.
Hi, I'm Chris Anderson. I'm CEO of 3DR and chairman of the Drone Code project. So what kind of things do we measure? At 3DR, we primarily do things like construction on sites, measuring the progress of construction, the sites themselves. We do mining, everything from piled volumes of materials that are taken in and out, or compliance, safety issues about the roads and things like that. People are also using this for infrastructure inspection. We're on an airport right now, and this airport needs to be inspected. Right now it's done manually with people and cameras driving trucks. It can be done much more easily from the air and automatically with computer vision or AI detecting issues. We're surrounded by agriculture. Drones are a good way to measure crops, looking for things like disease, water stress, fungal infections, things like that. You can spot it before it spreads, and that way you can use less chemicals because you don't have to spray before problems happen. You can wait till they do because you can spot problems in large areas very quickly. So that's just some of the examples of where we can use drones today to transform industries around us by simply digitizing them.
You know, there is so much potential with all of these emerging technologies, including drones, and Contra Costa County has so much potential. My question to you is, how are we going to take advantage of it? So we got together, I think in this actual room about a year and a half ago, and Ed Del Belcaro, are you still here? There you are. He was talking about drones, and I heard the story about how we got into autonomous vehicles. And I said, well, if they can do it with autonomous vehicles, why can't we do it with drones? So we began our journey, and we've made some relationships. And as we did that, one of the things that came up was what a leader CCTA is in using technologies. So we have Ivan Ramirez from Contra Costa Transportation Authority. And then along the journey, we've also made friends and partners with leaders in the drone industry. We're also working on other types of emerging technologies as well. But today we wanted to bring in one of my favorite partners that we've came in with related to drones. And we don't have the biographies of everybody, so I'm gonna let them tell you about themselves, and then we'll get started. So we'll start with Chris, and introduce yourself.
You're going to make me do this?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Diane. So yeah, I'm Chris Anderson. I'm the guy you saw on the video. I'm a CEO of 3DR, which is one of the leading drone companies here. This is not, this is something of an accident for me. 6 or 7 years ago, I was the editor of Wired magazine for many years. Before that, The Economist and a bunch of other media stuff, background in science. But it became clear to me about 10 years ago that something about that the iPhone was going to change the world, not just as a phone, but all the little bits and pieces in it, the sensors, the wireless networks, the ability to connect to the internet, that there was a huge potential to basically take the internet out into the physical world, to measure the world so we could manage it. And some people took it to your arms with wearables, sometimes people take it to your home with the Internet of Things, some people take it to factories, and I just looked up and thought, how about the air? How about just putting sensors in the air so we can measure the planet, higher resolution than satellites, below the clouds, cheaply, easily, and then that took us about 8 years to do that, and we helped build the modern drone industry. And then the question is, what's it good for? And the last 4 or 5 years have really been working with partners, like Diane and Ivan, to basically drill down on specific industries, whether it be transportation, ports, airports. We spend a lot of time with mines and construction. These are all industries that are huge, some of the biggest industries in the world, and they're largely analog. The notion is that they're managed with cell phone calls and paper. And the rest of the world is increasingly managed with technology. And if we could only digitize that world, we could start to manage it more effectively. So that's what we do, and it's a highly regulated industry by the FAA. And so one thing we need to prove to the world is that this is safe. This is safe for use, not just in like special small areas like a mine, but over our heads, like package delivery or what's called air taxis, urban air mobility. And so the FAA is now working with us and Contra Costa to basically invent the future of aircraft certification that doesn't take 10 years and hundreds of millions of dollars and lead to glitches. Well, glitches is not the right word. Lead to problems like the 737 MAX, which is really just it was too complicated, too expensive to be properly certified. Let's find a way that treats vehicles like the software devices they increasingly are, and that innovate at the pace of Silicon Valley. And let's
let's find a way to do that at the small, low-risk category, which you just saw, so that we can build the data to someday extend this to the vehicles that we would be happy flying in.
And he wouldn't mention this, but Chris was named one of the Time Magazine's 100 most influential people in 2007, we believe. As I go out and make these connections, CCTA shines on a national level for the way that they embrace technology. And so when we asked for CCTA to send somebody, they said it had to be Ivan. So please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Supervisor Burgess. Thank you for inviting me to be being in this panel along with Chris Anderson. We use their products in 2 of our projects. And my history is actually in construction. I spent the first 20 years of my career in California Department of Transportation, where I built many high-profile infrastructure projects. About 7.5 years ago, Randy Iwasaki, the executive director, who was actually the person that was asked to come to this panel, and he actually hired me out of Caltrans and brought me to work at Contra Costa Transportation Authority, where I've been there for the last, like I said earlier, 7.5 years. And one of the neat things about working for Randy Iwasaki, and by the way, I want to introduce here my boss over there, Tim Hale. One of the things that we have, that Randy does, he's always pushing us to innovate. He's always pushing the envelope. What are you going to do different right now or tomorrow that you're not doing right now? And in my case, that has involved the use of technology in construction administration, paperless, and electronic signatures, electronic workflows, and so on. And I believe that has made us much more efficient during construction. Construction is one of the industries, I think it's the second least innovative industry when they get ranked by a McKinsey study that is actually year after year after year, we come up like almost last. And so that, and eventually that led me to drones. And we did a pilot project over at Brentwood, at the Balfour project, where we were bringing and moving a lot of dirt. That is, it requires a payment quantity, and the way it gets measured, it's inaccurate. In essence, there's no way to actually measure it. And then at the end of the project, you cannot really actually measure how much dirt has been brought out, so you pay the contractor. So we did a pilot project where, with the use of drones, we were able to do LiDAR technology, which it's kind of like a laser, and photogrammetry to calculate the variance in volumes every single month. I know that 3DR has an advanced dirt measuring device as well, and we're looking forward to using it. And very quickly, we also used that drone, again, made by 3DR, to do all kinds of inspections in the Express Lanes project, the 680 interchange project. It's currently under construction. We're using drones to do all kinds of inspections that include striping, K-rail inspections, whatever, the water coming out of the project site needs to be restrained, and we have to have measures in place so that they don't go out and muddle the road. And those can be in remote locations, and they don't get inspected necessarily every day by the inspectors. When you take flight from a drone, you really get a full overview of the project. And one last thing I want to say is that the use of drones in construction is just getting started. There is an infinite number of things that I sometimes imagine, a lot of things that can be done with drones in construction and also outside of construction.
You know, in our journey of kind of exploring emerging technology, we had a very interesting conversation with someone, and they compared these emerging technologies to PCs and cell phones. Initially, a PC was word processing, and then it became spreadsheets, and then it became all of these things. And I think with these emerging technologies, we're figuring out what we can do with them. And I really feel like we have an opportunity to develop our workforce, to prepare them for these what ifs. What can we do with this technology? So I'm really interested in working with our high schools, and we've got representatives from Contra Costa College District, and we're looking at trying to encourage them to put that into their into the learning in these colleges, so that we have a workforce that's preparing for whatever is the need. And the other thing that's really interesting to me is that they say people of color are typically the early adopters of technology, but they make up less than or around 3% of the workforce. I think, wouldn't it be great if East County could be one of the reasons why those numbers increase? And so that's one of the other things that I think is really interesting in pursuing this. So what I'd like to ask is, beyond what you've mentioned, what other innovative automated technology is in use here in the Bay Area or in the county that our audience may not be aware of? And I'm just going to give you some triggers. We've got transportation and infrastructure, fire and public safety, agriculture, real estate, entertainment.
I'll take a first one. I won't talk about drones since we've already done that. But one of the things when we look out at the markets that are going to be most transformed by automation, I know there's a lot of concern about robots taking jobs and things like that. But the reality is that we are at an all-time, a 50-year low in unemployment. We have desperate labor shortages, not everywhere, not every industries, but if you rank the industries by the labor shortages, number one is healthcare, especially elder care. After that's things like food service, trucking and warehousing, construction, manufacturing, things like that. These are places where we can see the demographic. We can see the demographic trends. We know many of us have elderly parents. We know how difficult it's going to be to care for them. Japan was going through this a couple decades before us, but it's coming to us as well. So the technology I wanted to highlight was actually autonomous cars. There's a company called Voyage out in Silicon Valley, and as you know, it's autonomous cars cannot be legally deployed on any road anytime. But if you put them in closed campuses, it's a private property, well-defined area, very little traffic, then they actually can be completely safe. And it turns out the elder care communities are exactly that. And so there's these communities, right now they're in Florida, but they're going to be everywhere, where you have sometimes thousands of people living in a closed community. And they need shuttles. They need to be taken to the store, taken to the gym, taken to the hairdresser. And right now there's only two choices. They can either wait for the bus, or they can drive themselves. And if any of you have elderly parents, you're probably not, I do, I'm not happy with them driving. But they crave their independence. And these autonomous cars, completely driverless cars, they just press a button on a phone, on their phone, and an autonomous car comes up to their house and takes them to the store. And they're not inconveniencing anybody. It happens anytime they want. It's completely safe. And you don't think of robot cars being elder care, but that's one of the most exciting applications I can think of.
So I'm going to follow up on what Chris was saying. We at CCTA, we have a pilot program over at Bishop Ranch, and in this instance, Chris, we actually have DMV permission and NESTA permission to get out into the streets. So, but it's a work in progress. It's moved slowly, but and we at CCTA we want to move it even further, where we actually are able to deploy these vehicles so that they actually go and reach out people at their homes and bring them into transit hubs. But like I said, the problem is challenging for the reasons you brought up, safety primarily. But it's a program that we're working on, as you stated. I think that a lot of research is going into the automatic vehicles or the autonomous vehicles, self-driving vehicles. And I think what's interesting about that is that people don't talk about drones in the same way, but the same technology that is going to be used for vehicles to know where each other are or where infrastructure is the same technology that's going to be used by drones. It's just that it's going to be extended to a third dimension. So if I've spoken to a few researchers when I went back to Washington, D.C. a couple of years ago, and they have these visions of the Jetsons, right? They're going to be all these corridors of all kinds of drones moving around the city, delivering packages, delivering people, and they have to know where each one of them is so they avoid collision. And they also need to know what the jet airplanes are and the helicopters are. They are going to be in a different circuit. So the technology that is being currently used on a two-dimensional basis is the same technology is going to be used on a three-dimensional basis when you talk about drones.
I think Jeff Bezos just announced today that they would be going to the moon soon. So, I mean, the technology is here today, and what can we do? Even though we haven't necessarily been that place, why can't we be? And as we saw on the maps earlier, we're right in the middle of everything, so why not? So, Chris, what makes what made Contra Costa an interesting partner for you?
Yeah, it's a good question. Right now we do almost all of our drone testing in Mexico, in Tijuana, Mexico, where we have a big operation. We do it there because my co-founder was from Tijuana, and it's outside of the FAA's jurisdiction, so the Mexican government allows us to fly more easily. The labor is extremely good, and about 1/7 the price. Now that's great, and we've done 20,000 flights there already, but the FAA is going to want us to do testing in the United States, and we want to do it somewhere close to our engineering headquarters. So we could do it in San Diego, but our engineering headquarters is up here. We can't do it in Berkeley, where we're based, because it's an urban environment. So we want something that's proximate to our engineering, but has more space. Possibly cheaper. The fact that you have an airport is a plus. FAA, friendly in the sense they understand the regulatory environment, and has the support of a local government. That's a trifecta. You nailed it.
Yeah, so we have 2 airports in Contra Costa County. Byron Airport is G airspace, is that what they call it? And so it's not as regulated as Buchanan Field, which is, a pretty popular suburban airport. What Mark Goodwin, my chief of staff, has said is we have this ability to provide folks the ability to crawl, then walk, then run, as far as this technology goes. So that's been one of the things. I love that tune. That's one of my favorite tunes. We are a really good laboratory, and we're also ready to work. And I've got to recognize the cities that were up here. We are all working together to figure out how to bring these technologies. So can you talk about the different jobs that you see coming from emerging technologies?
Yeah, can I follow up on something that you asked Chris earlier? So I think it's I helped the county fill up the application about 2 years ago to start this pilot project, and I am really impressed how far you have taken it with Chris. Really exciting, and I think ultimately you're going to need that private-public partnership to advance these technologies, because they don't have where to test the technologies, where to improve it, where to test it to failure, and they need a partner like the county in this instance, where they can test it before they deploy it to the masses. So that partnership is really important, and you really have to have somebody, a board or a council that is willing to take that risk also. So we at CCT are very lucky that I think we have the best board. They support us. They support our executive director with all the initiatives that he seeks, and that has allowed us to become known nationwide as an innovative place to work. So your question about jobs, you said? Yeah. So, a lot of these technologies definitely going to need people that, and maybe Chris can expand on his workforce, but you're going to need people that know how to do math. They need to be math proficient. They need to be able to know how to code. They're going to need to know how to use logic to make sure that these devices work in the right way, and also algorithms, how to do algorithms so that they are able to make decisions on their own. In construction, we have a shortage of people. Recently, I just got a call from a counterpart of mine in the county that is really worried about bid prices, how high they're coming in, and a lot of that is driven by lack of labor. So in construction, we actually are in desperate need of ways to address that labor shortage. And I think technology is going to be one of the saviors to help us have that ability to deliver these projects in the most cost-effective ways. And that includes, like I said, any program. It can be programmers. It could be the old construction guy that used to go with a pen and pencil. He might have to use a computer now, a laptop, to make the work that he needs to have done in the field.
So understanding that the industry is regulated by the federal government, and that's not likely to devolve to locals anytime soon, what can local government and civic leaders do to foster this emerging technology and capitalize on the potential?
So I touched on that a little earlier. These partnerships need to exist. And it really requires a forward-looking agency. Look, there is no incentive or reward for employees of a public agency or even local elected officials, because when you fail, everybody knows about it, right? If you succeed, nobody knows about it. So you, as somebody that has to take risks sometimes in what I do, I'm very full aware of that, and that's why it's important that somebody steps up and actually tries to find a way to implement these technologies that ultimately, like you said, are going to bring jobs and also going to improve our lives going into the future.
Yeah, I think that it's not just in the United States where you have state and federal. Of course, as technology, we're like water. We flow to wherever we want it, anywhere in the world. So there are very progressive places, Singapore, that are drawing technology companies there by saying, hey, we're going to give you these automation zones, or we're going to clear the space for you, or we're going to make the regulations easier for you. I mean, one of the biggest places right now for drone delivery is Tanzania. It's in Africa because they had a need to deliver blood across long distances, with poor infrastructure, and they just made it really easy for companies to come in and do this experiment. So it's worked out great. They've saved thousands of lives, and more to the point, demonstrated the utility of the technology. And so now, weirdly, Africa is innovating faster than the United States because they had the need, saw that made it easy for the companies to come there, and then is now coming back here based on the successful rollouts in Africa. The main thing we need is, especially when we talk about the areas where state and local government is the customer or needs a service done. Right now it's a hard process to get through procurement to kind of convince the various people down the line this is a good thing. But if we get to the top, if someone at the top believes that using technology will save money and improve performance, and they just mandate it. Now it doesn't have to be a specific company, but just say this, like airport inspection was what we were describing. If you just say, hey, you know what, we will prefer airport inspections done through an automated fashion, drones or whatever, but let's say automated airport inspection, and we prefer it for two reasons. One is that we'd like to pay 1/10 as much, and two, we'd like to disrupt the airport for 1/10 as long during it. And you can just either mandate or incentivize this, then some contractor out there will see this as an opportunity to adopt the technology, demonstrate the technology, and then we win. So really a lot of it is just knowing what's available out there, understanding the ROI, what the benefits for the taxpayer and for the government itself, and then just creating an incentive for the contractors to adopt it.
I liked that you said save money and improve performance. But I also think if we can enhance our quality of life, we're really doing well. And in Tanzania, they don't have the freeways and roads that to get people, but we have congested roadways and we have too many cars. And so if we can use technology to maybe alleviate some of that traffic, to improve our experience, and that could make a big difference. I'd like to open this up to questions, if that's okay. Okay, we got a hand.
Chris, I was inspired by your talk of autonomous vehicles, And if I think of the 36 minutes that it took me to get here this morning, it probably took you about an hour from Berkeley, I'm guessing, and a lot of people from all around the county. Have there been any large-scale studies that any of the panelists know of about what the impact would have of something radical about taking cars off the road as we have them now and replacing them by autonomous vehicles? That's something that would be, let's say, at the county level or at the state level. I mean, imagine if there was an autonomous vehicle and 4 of us got into one of those cars this morning and paid probably a quarter of what we might pay for an Uber. We'd all be paying $5 or $10 to get here, and I'm sure people would have rather have done that. And there's 1/4 of the traffic now that's on the road. So any large-scale studies that you know of?
Yeah, absolutely. First, I wanted to recognize John. John Cumbers is one of the pioneers in synthetic biology, which is an industry we've not talked about here, but is very tied into the combination of Silicon Valley and biomedical stuff. So thank you, John. Yes, there have been studies, and sadly, the studies suggest you'll have more cars, not fewer, on the road. Now, that sounds like a bad. The reason there's more cars is because these cars right now there's at least one person per car. So when the person gets to work, they park, but the autonomous cars just circle, waiting for passengers like Ubers. So, for example, when you put Ubers, when you have unlimited Ubers or Lyfts into a city, it often increases the traffic because they're incentivized to just stay on the road looking for business. So if we're not careful, we could have undriven cars just going around roundabouts all day long waiting to be dispatched. So it's not obvious that it's going to help with the traffic. It might help, however, with the quality of life. So the roads are full of autonomous cars, but at least we got from point A to point B without having to drive.
As chair of Tri-Delta Transit, and Jeannie Craig is here from Tri-Delta Transit, we are exploring ways to possibly implement buses into the autonomous field. And how many people per bus are we? How many cars are we? What's the number? You don't know what I'm talking about. There's a number of how many cars you take off for every bus. Sorry, Jeannie, I just throw you out. But that's another way that that kind of technology could make a difference.
So there's also an alternative view of this where as far as the use of parking, right? So because you're gonna send your vehicle to park on its own. Parking spaces are going to be required less and less. So there's a lot of studies and a lot of things that are envisioning, but until we get there and people start adopting it, it's not really defined how it's all going to work out in the end.
Okay, another question over there.
Hi, I'm Shireen Sasser with Pittsburgh Unified School District, and I have a comment and a boast. We, in partnership with Contra Costa Transportation Authority at Pittsburgh High School, applied for a grant, which we received for $500,000, to teach our students about autonomous vehicles so that as we move into that industry, we have workers in place in this new industry to work on these vehicles. Also, Tri-Delta Transit is also helping us as well. So kudos to Pittsburgh and Contra Costa, because we are innovators, and a part of that is working together and our combined vision to really make that happen, and also the community colleges, which are also moving in that direction.
That's fantastic to hear. And to this question, what skills are they being taught? So one of the things we pushed really hard, both the drones and now with cars, is we make it cheap and easy and fun to participate. So with drones, we started something called DIY, do-it-yourself drones, and that actually created today's industries. We've done now the same thing with cars, DIY robo-cars. And we have 10,000 people around the world, ranging from 12-year-olds to retirees. The cars are about yay big, but they use the exact same technology and sensors as the big cars. They can be done safely indoors. And I thought you'd be pleased to hear that in November of this year, the Girl Scouts of Northern California are all going to gather up in, well, at least the ones on the technology track are all going to gather in Oakland for a race where they're all going to be racing self-driving cars indoors, and they're going to learn about AI and computer vision. And this is just the first of many. So we're trying to basically make this so much, not just cheap and easy, but and relevant, but fun enough that it can be easily introduced into curricula. And robotics has always been something in curricula, but it's tend to be quite expensive, requires parent mentors, and it's spotty. The privileged schools get it and the underprivileged schools don't. The notion here is if we can make it even cheaper and even easier and integrate it into state and national organizations like Girl Scouts, where we will get even more adopters.
Yeah, and if you're interested, they do have drone racing at the Antioch Fairgrounds, so it's kind of fun to watch.
I was going to say that I think I haven't spoken about Momentum Station, which is a vehicle test bed that is currently in Concord. I believe there was somebody earlier talking about Momentum Station, and currently we're testing for autonomous vehicles and other technologies there. And I remember when Randy Wasaki, my executive director, thought about having a relationship with a school district so that they could come in and see some of the work that's being done at Momentum Station to inspire them to go into these technologies of the future. And I actually wasn't aware that we collaborated and got a grant with the city of Pittsburgh, but I know that's something that he talked about it very often and actually came to fruition. And that's one of the other things that being in partnerships, that spark that leads people in other directions.
Hi, I'm Jean Tepperman. I'm a freelance reporter. And it's a direct question for Mr. Ramirez. It seems to me the most urgent new technology that's needed in transportation is to electrify everything. And I know that that's also can be a big job creator. In LA County, they committed to electrifying all their buses, and they said that they would buy buses from people who manufactured them locally, and now there's a whole new electric bus manufacturing site there. So I wondered what plans you guys have for that.
So on a personal note, I'm an early adopter of electrification. I bought my first plug-in hybrid about 8 years ago, and I bought recently a new one. So I am always mindful of these charging stations. How much range do I have? So, and it's a challenge that needs to be addressed in order to move electrification forward. At CCTA, we have a program, I believe, with one of the transit agencies in the county. So she can address here, but also we are working currently with our partner agencies to develop and enrich our network of charging stations. Now that Peter Engel is the director of, so she's going to jump in here and help me out. He's a director of programs, and he's working with, like I said, with our partnering agencies to develop that electrification program for us.
Yeah, and with Tri-Delta Transit, we've got 4 buses from 2 different companies, and we're testing those out. And there are policies in place that we will have to go all electric by, is it 2040? Yeah, 2040.
Thank you. My name is Jody London. I'm the Sustainability Coordinator for Contra Costa County, and we partnered last year with CCTA, and we received a $200,000 grant from the California Energy Commission to develop an electric vehicle readiness blueprint. We're going to be actually completing the report in June so that we'll be eligible for phase 2 implementation funding. We've had several different tracks that we're putting into this blueprint. So there's a toolkit that local governments can follow as they think about land use and permitting issues. There's some pretty big issues that come in when you think about where are people going to park, where are they going to charge. We've heard from the electric vehicle charge manufacturers that they are more inclined to go to areas where the permitting requirements are the same across cities. It's very frustrating for them when each city has slightly different requirements. So that's all in the toolkit. We've also partnered with Pittsburgh Unified, Los Medanos, and several others around a workforce training component of our blueprint, because we know that there's going to be new skills needed for mechanics and electricians in this. And there's also going to be a map of places where we want to have shared mobility hubs, so vehicles of all different types can pull in and charge very easily. So we're thinking about a lot of this. It's not too late to get involved. We're as I said, we're putting together this final report. Come find me or find Peter Engel at CCTA. We've had a series of stakeholder engagements that have included the transit agencies, as well as many of the cities and some of the vehicle manufacturers and PG&E. So it's a great project, and I'm glad to have an opportunity to plug it. Thank you for giving me a minute.
I think we're approaching one more question. Is that about right? Okay. Any more questions? All right. Well, then I'm going to let you guys close. Oh, there you are. I didn't see you.
I was just going to bring us back to the Northern Waterfront and the concept of siting jobs and, maybe manufacturing. So as a thought into my question here, when the solar thing happened, and I'm a scientist myself, so there's the development people like us that develop these things, okay? And of course, this area is very good at that. And then the idea was then the solar panels would be manufactured. And they are, but they're not manufactured here. Some of them are manufactured in the US, but a lot of them are not. Are any of these technologies autonomous vehicles or drones? How do you capture the supply chain? Because not everyone is a development person. Some people have skills to be more of a manufacturing level, some people to service them when they break. So how do you try to capture that and then locate as much of the supply chain as you can here?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we originally started manufacturing in San Diego, then we moved the manufacturing to Mexico once we got into the tens of thousands. Then we moved it to Shenzhen, China, as one does, once we got into the units of millions. And then there was just a race to the bottom on pricing, and we got out because we just couldn't compete with native manufacturers. And that was pretty much the story of consumer electronics. You can't buy a phone that's manufactured in the United States until last year, where the Department of Defense and the U.S. federal agencies realized that we had some security vulnerabilities. This dependence on foreign-made technology, and specifically Chinese in this case, Huawei being a perfect example, telecoms and robotics. They realized that that they no longer had confidence that they knew what was on these boards and what was in the software. And so they have now basically banned some non-US technologies. And we're like, well, I get that, but let's not go back to the bad old days where a drone cost $1 million. So, we had this amazing thing. We got a drone to cost $500, and it's fantastic. Let's not reverse the clock. Let's understand a way to combine the best of China on commodity elements, motors, plastics, batteries, and things like that, and the best of Silicon Valley with things like software and sensors. And let's basically take commodity elements, ship them in, and then assemble them and test them and certify them in the United States. So that's kind of where we are right now. What that means is that it's not the same kind of factory you would expect. We're not going to be making something from the raw materials here in the United States. Instead, what we're doing is a value-added thing. We're basically taking components, assembling them, testing them here. There's fewer jobs. For sure, it's much more higher end jobs, in that you're basically test engineers and things like that. But that looks to be like the middle ground that will be pursued, and that's largely to retain, the important parts of manufacturing here in the United States, the parts that give confidence in the product while still taking advantage of the efficiencies of a global supply chain.
We've got a couple more questions, and I am out of time. So I welcome you to talk to folks afterwards. I I just wanted to get your imagination, because you got my imagination the last time, and this is what we've been able to do so far. So thank you for coming. And I did want to recognize that Contra Costa County Administrator David Twa is here, and also acknowledge our various city managers that are in attendance.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Burgess, Ivan, and Chris, for your insights into technology in our county. At this time, we're going to take a few brief minutes. Just if anyone out in the audience has anything that they want to share with the group that kind of ties in with our themes of bringing jobs to the county, there's a mic that'll be going around. If you could raise your hand. Right here in front.
Hi, maybe I can face this way, is that okay?
Absolutely.
So Chris gave me a very nice introduction, and I'm John Cumbers, and I run an innovation network for the synthetic biology industry. And if you haven't heard of the synthetic biology industry, then you soon will do. It's a subsector of the biotechnology industry, and in 2018 alone, it raised more than $3.8 billion of investment. Much of that is here in the Bay Area. I moved from Mountain View. I was actually at NASA Ames for 7 years, so I lived in the heart of Silicon Valley, but working in the biotech field, and of course, South San Francisco is the heart and the birthplace of biotechnology. I moved to Contra Costa so that my family and I could afford some space and a yard for the kids to run around in. And I find myself in Silicon Valley or in San Francisco probably about once a week. So it's good for me. My business is now in Pleasant Hill, and I can walk to work from where I live in Lafayette. So I'm really living that dream that I think most people here are talking about, which is that we can have great jobs next to a great place to live. So just very briefly, Moore's Law you've heard about, the price of a transistor on a chip. You may not have heard of Carlson's curve, which is that falling faster than Moore's Law is the price of reading, writing, and editing DNA. A couple of the companies that are doing the most amazing things in this area, has anybody here tried the Impossible Burger? Mm-hmm. I suggest you go and try it. It's a delicious burger that tastes like you're eating beef, but there's no cow in this burger. So I encourage you to check it out. It's going to be in Burger King nationwide by the end of the year. Another of my favorite synthetic biology companies is Berkeley Brewing Science. And Berkeley Brewing Science makes some amazing beer, but there's no hops in it. The yeast actually produced the hop flavor. So I'm a big fan of biotechnology. I'd love to see it as part of the Northern Waterfront, particularly around biomanufacturing. I think it starts with an amazing educational institution, which I'd love to see here. And please come and find me if you're interested in bringing more biotech to this project. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? And if we could keep those to probably 30 seconds. No problem.
All right, so I'm doing this for Holland White, right over there. So I wanted to share a little bit about our program that we're working with Antioch and Pittsburgh Unified School District on. Thank you, Shireen, for sharing the grant that you just won. It's super exciting. And also Amber and Kevin from Pittsburgh Unified, or Antioch Unified is here as well. We have 2 to 3 employers that have crafted project-based challenges. One of them is actually Colette with City of Pittsburgh. And we worked with Velodyne LiDAR as well. It's a LiDAR company that builds LiDAR sensors for autonomous vehicles, which I think it's On Voyage is one of their customers. And they've designed a project-based challenge as well. And then we had one more challenge. I think it was actually a drone project with DJI. I need to talk to Chris there. And we are engaging about 300 to 400 Antioch and Pittsburgh Unified School District students right now with these project-based challenges in the classroom as part of curriculum. And these students are essentially working on solutions for these employers, and essentially that becomes a talent pool generator for these employers. So I thought I'd share that. It is going well so far. We are going into the internship programming now, meaning these students who are qualified for these employers can now basically apply and get internships with these employers. And all these employers will be also paying for these ninth, entering 10th graders, and also graduating 12th graders in their internship positions. And that is about it. Just wanted to share that and let you guys know that we're doing some work here in talent and workforce development with K-12. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We do have time for one more comment, if there is, in the back. In the back.
I just have to speak up for Mount Diablo Unified School District. We're doing many of the same things and work with Marathon. We have Project Lead the Way. Our kids are doing robotics and they're looking at graduating with skills to get right into the workplace. So I think all the education facilities are on board to join this and move it forward. And we have the workers you need for tomorrow.
Thank you. All right, now we would like to present the day's final video, which is from Congressman Jerry McNerney.
Hello, I'm Congressman Jerry McNerney from California's 9th Congressional District. As one of your representatives in Washington, I'm excited to be serving our community at a time when we are recognizing our region's economic potential and opening up new opportunities for job creation and growth. We're achieving that goal through innovative ideas and strategic projects like the Northern Waterfront Economic Development Initiative. This collaborative effort brings together the county, as well as 7 cities and private sector partners to harness our community strengths so that we may build a brighter, more robust economic future for our region. I commend Supervisor Glover and Supervisor Burgess for their hard work on this project. Our area is rife with opportunity, and this initiative will leverage local industries, including transportation, manufacturing, and clean tech, to create thousands of new jobs in our community. I'll continue to fight for more federal opportunities to grow our economy, and I look forward to working with local and private sector partners to ensure the success of forward-thinking projects like the Northern Waterfront Economic Development Initiative.
We really appreciate the support from our elected officials who were unable to join us today. Our final panel of the day will send us out with some inspiration and motivation for what's going on in our region today and rolling out in future years. I like that sound too. I also want to thank everyone for taking their time and being here today. We know how hard it is to get away from the office, especially on a Friday, but wanted to thank you for taking a moment and being here and staying for the entire day. So at this point in time, we'd like to welcome to the stage our next panel, which includes regional leaders, Robert, I'm going to mess this up, Oakley, Kate Sophis, and Steve Heminger, along with panel moderator Amalia Cunningham from the county.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It has been a real pleasure to hear such inspiring talks so far, to see so many interested folks, and I know we're all ready to move together towards implementation, projects that get things done. So we have assembled this panel of regional leaders and regional doers. I am Amalia Cunningham. I'm Contra Costa County's Economic Development Manager. I work in the Department of Conservation and Development, and I am delighted to be joined on stage today with some of the Bay Area's most prominent leaders when it comes to regional strategizing for jobs and sustainable economic growth. Robert Oakley is Spur's Oakland Director. Over the past 20 years, he has worked extensively in community development and planning to help improve low and middle income neighborhoods. He previously worked at Change Lab and taught at the University of California at Berkeley Department of City and Regional Planning. Kate Sophis is the Chief Executive Officer of SF Made, an organization founded in 2010, already viewed as a new national model for creating a more equitable and diverse local economy by growing local manufacturing. Kate is also co-founder of the Urban Manufacturing Alliance, a national initiative which currently engages more than 50 other major U.S. cities and metropolitan areas, all working on developing their own local manufacturing economies. Steve Heminger is the recently retired Executive Director of the Metropolitan Transportation Commission and the Association of Bay Area Governments, who led the two organizations through their administrative merger and spearheaded numerous major regional transportation planning and financing initiatives in his 17 years at the helm. We're going to be hearing remarks from each of them in turn, and then we will have time for audience questions sparked by their comments and the future of growth in the region. First, I would like to invite Robert Oakley from Spur.
Good afternoon. Nice to see you all. Thank you for staying around on a Friday afternoon. If I were you, I'd probably be on my fourth coffee by now. So I'm going to try and do it punchy. I'm going to try and do it quickly and be as engaging as possible. I appreciate your attention. I could spend a little bit of time on Spur. I'm going to do that quickly. You might know us, you might not. How many of you have heard of Spur before? Okay, good. If you're not a member yet, please join. Kidding. Spur has been around since 1910. I opened Spur in Oakland 4.5 years ago. It means the San Francisco Bay Area Planning and Urban Research Association. We do a bunch of different things, but our main thing is good planning and good government through research, education, and advocacy. We are in 3 main cities, Oakland, San Jose, and San Francisco, but increasingly we work regionally. And I think that's probably why Amalia invited me today, not just because we're friends. So I am going to talk about some of the work we've been doing around economic prosperity. That's what you all have been talking about today. That's one of the things we do, along with community planning, good government, housing, regional planning, and so on. And I have a PowerPoint, and she has the presentation, and you got a clicker. And I'll take it. Yeah, can I drive? Thank you. Self-driving presentation. So the work, this is what we do. I like to show this because it shows we work in partnership. And is there a way for me to skip right through to the very end? I've been listening to what's been said today about drones and about the issues in construction and how you need to know algorithms now, and how you need to learn how to use a laptop instead of just paper and pencil. And that is right in line with the whole sort of blue-collar tech stuff that a lot of us have been talking about, and how much more complicated it is, even in a blue-collar job, than it used to be. And I'm going to go back through some of this, but I want to start with this, and Amalia is going to kill me because she said not to talk about housing. This is regionally the #1 issue that we face. We are in the middle of our first sort of regional strategy. It's modeled on a partner organization of ours in New York City called the Regional Plan Association. They just finished their 4th over the last century. We're doing our first one, and everyone knows housing costs too damn much in the Bay Area. I don't know anyone who won't tell you that. And we at Spur happen to still believe in the law of supply and demand. Some of you might not. In Oakland, a lot of the housing advocates who I work with do not believe in the law of supply and demand anymore, but we do. And so we commissioned another research organization to help us figure out how many more housing units do we need to sort of reach equilibrium in the region? And this is not the best slide, I'm sorry, it's the best one we had. And let me explain to you, and I think this is the red dot. I don't know where the red dot is, here's the red dot. Bay Area, since 2000, has underbuilt by 700,000 housing units. And almost all of them are in the below AMI and to 115 AMI, okay? That's where it is. The missing market, 470,000 that have not been built to meet demand, that are affordable below AMI, and 230,000 at market rate. The higher income, we're building enough of those. But even that price is being driven up because of competition. So that's where you have it. So that's since 2000, okay? The last time we built enough housing in the Bay Area was the early 80s. Since then, we have not been building enough. When we were building enough housing, I'm not going to show you that today, we were sprawling. We were building in Pittsburgh. We were building in Antioch. We were building in the far-reaching parts of the region. We have adopted a set of state policies to make it more difficult to build like that and to discourage building like that. What has not happened is the inverse. We have not adopted the set of policies that we need to do infill on the level that we need to. So I just want to show you that because that colors everything, okay? 4 blocks from my office in Oakland, Square is about to open up. There are a lot of people who are very worried about that. And the reason they're worried is that about 2,000 well-paid workers are going to descend on the neighborhood, and they figure that they're going to be able to price others out. Okay. Everywhere else in the world, if Square was about to open in your neighborhood, people would be happy as hell. Here, it is a potential problem, and it's a potential problem because of housing. So I just want to put that there because we need to be able to deal with that. All right, so economic prosperity strategy. I'm going to go through quickly because I probably have 1 minute left, right? These are the things that we like to focus on in our work. Creating pathways to the middle, plus economic growth equals, plus economic security equals economic prosperity. That's what we talk about for the region. And the middle is struggling. Give you some quick, I'll go back here, give you, some quick presentations. Let me show you. We have what is known as a dumbbell economy or barbell economy. Growth at the bottom, growth at the top, shrinkage in the middle. This was 07 to 10, and I guess I don't have the more up-to-date slide, okay? Half of all middle wage jobs do not require a college degree, and they're found in many industries. This is the other thing we know. There is no such thing as a middle-wage industry. There's almost no such thing as a high-wage industry either. High wages and lower wages are in the same industries. They kind of coexist. You have low-wage people and high-wage people in the same industry. And low-wage workers live and work anywhere, kind of like high-wage workers do. So increasing economic opportunity is a region-wide priority. Low-wage jobs are located where higher-wage jobs are. That's how it works in the Bay Area right now. So we've got a number of strategies. I see Amalia standing up. I know what that means. I've got good peripheral vision that can be run through to deal with this. Sorry, you can, expand basic skills training. You can establish industry-driven sector-based regional partnerships. You can improve career navigation systems and on. And I will point to this one because we don't often talk about this in an economic development presentation. Develop land use plans that support transit-oriented jobs, industrial uses, and housing. I'm going to skip through a couple of them and just get right back to this one. Because this is the big kahuna in the room, is the housing. We estimate that for the next 50 years, we need to produce 50,000 units of housing to catch up. I'll say that again. For the next 50 years, we need to produce 50,000 units of housing regionally to catch up. We're not producing anywhere near 50,000 units of housing right now, much less for the next 50 years. So we've got a job to do.
Thank you, Robert. And I'm sure we'll be able to tease out more details about these strategies you had to skip over during the Q&A. Next, Kate Sophus from SF Made.
I'm going to stand so I can see my own slides. Okay. So while they're getting up, I guess since we're all sort of disclosing why we think we're here today, among the other things that we've been working on outside of San Francisco, starting 3 years ago, was an initiative that originally started actually with 4 cities, with San Francisco, Oakland, Fremont, and San Jose, to really see if those communities could start collaborating city to city on how we can grow more sustainable, thriving, small local manufacturing economies. from that moment in time 3 years ago, starting to look at everything from how we market maker and manufacturing jobs to our young people, how we create a regional network of workforce training, how we look at transportation and how it connects where people live to where people work. All of those things really became very compelling for all of these cities. And from there we grew, and we now have a regional Bay Area urban manufacturing initiative that includes 29 cities and a county. And so really it's through that work that I believe I'm here today. But to sort of take it from a macro level to a much more small scale level, what I wanted to just kick things off with is to tell you a little bit about what we have managed to do in the last 10 years that we've been working in San Francisco. We actually have a sister organization now in San Jose and are starting to do work in the East Bay, so we're sort of lovingly following the Spur model. SF Made is 10 years old, and what I always like to say about us is coming from, I grew up in Buffalo, New York, so coming from a struggling town, which it was in the 70s, that was always looking to woo manufacturers in from somewhere else. You know, our big employers were General Motors and Bethlehem Steel, both of which shut down when I was a kid and had really massive repercussions on the economic prospects for young people. SF Made was founded in the Great Recession with the exact opposite thought. Instead of trying to throw a bunch of stuff at companies that were not headquartered, not owned by folks in the community, let's turn it on its head and do the opposite. Let's just look at what we have here. And what we had there in San Francisco in 2010 was a collection of about 50 manufacturers, all of whom I'm happy to say are here now. They started with some of our longest running folks. Oops. Let's get it going the right direction here. Like Anchor Brewing. And then we also had very young companies like Hey Boo, who's actually an Indonesian immigrant. And while she's the first to say that coconut jam and coconut everything has become popular in the US, that she actually brought a recipe from her grandmother in Indonesia and really fused it with sort of our foodie scene here. And throughout the 600 companies that we now support in San Francisco, the thing that unifies them all, whether they're food and beverage, I'm going to get this right this time, whether they are doing garment, we actually still have garment manufacturing now, or one of our other larger manufacturers, Timbuktu, who interestingly, picking up on Chris Anderson's earlier comments about their manufacturing journey, Timbuktu is similarly, I think, a very typical model that we see in the region, a manufacturer that is doing what we call the essential product transformation here in the US, in the States, in San Francisco, but who gets some of their supplies from abroad and who does some of their even component manufacturing abroad. It's that hybrid model that has actually allowed Timbuktu to grow locally in San Francisco and has allowed them to have more of a hybrid cost model that makes it work here in the US and in San Francisco, of all places. And then we have emerging advanced technologies. Now, obviously, we had a real example of true advanced manufacturing technology with a drone, but I always want to encourage everyone as we look at our manufacturing ecosystems, I find that there's a handful of pure play advanced robotics, drones kinds of products, but for every one of those, there are about 50 legacy and smaller manufacturers, consumer products, business to business, that have incorporated advanced technology, but still feel very sort of approachable. This is a great example. Blackbird Guitars is a travel guitar made out of a very advanced composite that the guy actually invented to be able to have a more safe production process than with typical fiberglass. And they are also thriving alive and well in the Mission District of San Francisco. And then Circa, many of you who wear a belt probably are wearing a Circa product and you don't even realize you have it on. They employ about 200 people in the Bayview District of San Francisco making private label belts, and they compete on the combination of skilled labor and advanced manufacturing production processes. So what we do, we really do three main things. We focus first on removing every barrier to growth for the manufacturers who've chosen to be in our community. That means working really closely with our city government. It means working to sometimes make companies aware of other resources and other nonprofit partners in the city. It also, for us, since we have so many consumer products, has meant using, in fact, the SF Made brand itself to help create new selling and market opportunities for folks. This is an example, actually, of a visitor map. We've done many iterations of this that gets distributed at the Visitor Center in San Francisco to help visitors engage more with our manufacturers. We also have leveraged our relationship, again, with the support of the mayor's office to drive more locally made products, frankly, from the region now into SFO by literally changing the point scoring systems for vendors who apply to vend in San Francisco. There are now points accorded for local manufactured products. And that's made a significant difference to the point that we now have duty-free shops actually having created an SF Made and locally made section within their store at SFO. We also work hard to drive capital to manufacturers, and it can be as simple as a Kickstarter campaign to working with banks and other both equity and debt providers for capital. But the thing that we are probably most proud of, that I think really resonates with the title of today, is it's really then about taking those work opportunities created by the manufacturers and connecting them to communities of need. We know, and our data still shows, not only does manufacturing create those middle income, middle wage jobs, but it does it in a way where people can come in at an entry level with less than a 4-year degree, who may or may not speak English and have other barriers to employment, as we say in the business, and actually successfully start at more than minimum wage and gain skills and economic security over time. So we have an integrated job board that serves all of the manufacturers across San Francisco. We have one that we just actually launched, a sister down in San Jose. And then we work to inspire particularly women and young people of color to explore manufacturing both as a career and even as an entrepreneurship experience. Last but not least, going to finish up with the discussion of housing. I'm also going to put in a plea, while we think about housing, let's also think about jobs. We absolutely have to solve housing, but if we do it at the expense of redeveloping what's left of our industrial job-producing space, we can't get that back. So we've thought a lot about that over the years, and I can talk more about it later today, but I'm going to finish with, we've run out of space in San Francisco, and so we've actually worked very hard in the last 5 years to come up with new models to incentivize and pay for new industrial development. This is our baby, the manufacturing foundry at 100 Hooper. It's the city and the region's first permanently affordable multi-tenant manufacturing space that we just finished construction of. Think of it as affordable housing, but for manufacturing and makers. And I can talk more about it later, but we did this through a pretty innovative combination of zoning and using office to help pay for the industrial space, and partnering with a huge developer to do the development, and then as a nonprofit having a deal to buy that back from them at below cost, and then bringing in new markets tax credits. So I'm happy to talk ad nauseum about that later, but I'm out of time.
Thank you so much, Kate, and I hope we do get a chance to talk more about the 100 Hooper project during the Q&A, because it is really fascinating and a very interesting model. And then third on our panel today, I'd like to invite Steve Heminger to tell us a little bit about what you had been working on in terms of regional work.
Thank you. I've got 3 disclaimers, 3 challenges, and 3 opportunities for you, and I've got 8 minutes, so that's about 1 minute each. Let's see if I can pull it off. The first disclaimer is probably a little obvious to you. The lights have just come back up. You know, when I worked at MTC and ABAG, I had this awesome graphics department, but now that I'm retired, I have handwritten notes. So feel free to rest your eyes, just listen to the sound of my voice. The second disclaimer, unfortunately, is my voice is getting over a cold, so I hope I don't croak my way through this thing. The third disclaimer, I think, is the most important, which is that I have retired from MTC and ABAG. So if I say anything today that makes you mad, don't take it out on those fine organizations. On the other hand, if you're still mad at me for something I did when I did work there, I think it's time for both of us to move on. So I encourage you to do that. The challenges for this work, the work you're doing and the work that other communities in the Bay Area are doing, I think the challenges are significant, and I wanted to mention three. The first one, maybe the way to lead into it is, if you remember that movie, The Graduate, and Dustin Hoffman's lying in his bedroom and the guy comes in with a drink in his hand and says, "I got one word for you, kid, plastics," right? Well, my word for you today is agglomeration. And that's sort of a fancy pants word that the economists use for the phenomenon that new jobs tend to go where the old jobs, where the current jobs already are. The tech sector is probably the classic example in our region. We've had something like 800,000 jobs created in the Bay Area since 2010. Those jobs have not been spread around the region like peanut butter, though. They have been concentrated especially in San Francisco, the Peninsula, and the South Bay, where all the tech jobs already are. And that is a very powerful force. And whether it's just because people like to go where they know they can go, where they're used to going, and they do it in the face of just awful traffic congestion and access issues and housing costs and all the rest of it. In fact, if you look at what the tech sector's doing, Google and Apple in particular, they're running the 7th largest public transit system. And it's not public, I guess I should say, but they're running the 7th largest system in the Bay Area rather than locate the job somewhere else because that agglomeration is that valuable to them. So that's a clear challenge that we face here. I think a second challenge is that the public sector has fairly weak tools to influence job location. And you might say, back to the housing theme, that their hand is stronger when it comes to residential development, right? Because at least there's a veto. You can say the housing is not going to go here. Where local government says housing can go, that doesn't mean it's automatically going to happen because the private sector has to come in and build it. But at least in terms of residential development, I think the public sector has a stronger hand. What has tended to happen in the past in terms of trying to entice jobs to certain locations is sort of giving away the store on the tax base. And you can talk to the city of New York and Amazon, that doesn't always work either. So I do think one of the challenges is trying to find the right leverage points that can encourage and influence job location to go where you want it to go and not just to go where it's used to going. The third one is the somewhat unusual fact, and I'll put it this way, the cost of doing business is lower in Austin, Texas than it is in Antioch, California. And the reason for that is that Antioch is located in California. So Antioch is stuck, like every other city in our state, with our state corporate tax structure, with CEQA, God bless its soul, with all the other hurdles and public involvement and every piece of red tape that we've built up over the years. That is something that applies not just in Belmont and not just in San Jose, but in Antioch and in Alameda and wherever you want to go in our region. So if someone's thinking of relocating or locating jobs, they will tend to look at California as a thing and not necessarily discriminate among communities, even though obviously the costs of doing business in those communities do vary somewhat. So, enough challenges. How about some opportunities? You know, one thing in thinking about today and what you and as I said, other communities are trying to pull off, maybe there's some history we can learn from. And the example that came to mind is the 1980s when the Bishop Ranch and Hacienda business parks grew up in the Tri-Valley. And that was a case, I think a pretty strong case, of office development chasing where the employees lived. The folks who made those decisions moved back office functions out of San Francisco to the Tri-Valley. They were aided, of course, by a very good interstate highway system, by BART extensions that had been built. And I know in this part of our region, you know, you've felt like a cul-de-sac sometimes. But I think with the improvements that you've made, that we've all made to Highway 4, with that spiffy new E-BART railroad you have right now, I do think we ought to look at that history and see if there's something we can learn from Bishop Branch and Hacienda. Even though this project is looking at industrial development, I think that's a case where we were able to influence the location of the jobs. Second, opportunity zones. This may have come up, I got here just a few minutes ago, so this may have come up already, but I think that is a clear opportunity to steal a line. For this part of the region, the state went through a designation process, and as I look at the maps, from Richmond all the way out here to Antioch, there are census tracts that are now eligible for that program, and we're going to see what that program turns out to be. It's not direct new spending, but it is a set of tax incentives, and those can prove effective from time to time. And finally, I do have some news from my old friends at MTC and ABAG that they made today, in fact, and I think you will be interested in this. They proposed that in addition to the priority development areas for residential development and the priority conservation areas for open space preservation that we've already created, they're proposing something called priority production areas. And I think that's right up your alley. The idea is to focus on industrial development as clusters, just like we're trying to cluster housing and open space development. It will be locally nominated, volunteer, as the PDAs and the PCAs are. And what the staff proposed earlier today, in fact, is that letters of interest be submitted by October 1st. And I think the key question is the money going to follow the designation? And if I had to give you a little hint today, I'd say follow the money. It very well could. So I may have, with the challenges, depressed you a little bit. I do have that. I tend to have that effect on people. But I hope with the opportunities, I've given you some hope. And I wish you all the best in the work you're doing here to try to revitalize these communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And I think I speak for all the folks out here where I say we are open to Class A office as well as new industrial jobs. No problem. So before we jump into audience questions, I wanted to pose a question to the panel and see if you had any thoughts about, in particular, our Northern Waterfront region between the Delta and Highway 4, roughly. What do you think are some particular strengths and opportunities in this region around jobs? Anybody want to jump in? Maybe Steve?
Well, I'll just maybe return to a point I made earlier. I do think the infrastructure improvements we've made here are not small. They're significant. Are more yet to do? Sure there are. But I think one thing that this region has been blessed with is voters in most of our counties now, 8 out of the 9, have voted to tax themselves, not once, but in many cases twice or 3 times. To deliver infrastructure improvements that will support economic development. I know Contra Costa is going to take another run at that in some election soon, and I do think that is one of our regional strengths, our ability to tap local money and raise it ourselves.
Thank you.
I mean, Kate said something earlier about being careful to hold on to industrial land, because if you lose that, it's hard to get back. And I think that's a strength here. So there's focus on that. For those of you who like the Oakland A's and are following what's going on around their attempt to build a ballpark at Howard Terminal, one of the main organizations resisting is Schnitzer Steel, which is right next door, who've decided that if a major league ballpark goes in next to their steel recycling facility, their long-term prospects don't look too good. And I sympathize or empathize with many concerned in that. So this part of the region, you've got a lot of land that is appropriately zoned and good for expansion, and I think that's a real strength.
And I'll just add in the comparative cost of real estate as well, including housing. While it's still, we can all agree, astronomical compared to where we want it to be, relative certainly to the San Franciscos and other parts of the region, you've got some comparative opportunity with housing cost here.
I think that's right. All the housing and industrial and commercial rents are all so much less here than in the inner core of the Bay Area. That's a major strength. Do we have any audience questions for our illustrious panel? I think my colleague Francisco Avila is going to run the mic if we have some questions. I see some back there. Just a minute and Francisco will bring the mic to you.
Thank you, Alan Payton. Background on Transportation Authority and 21 years ago. And we just finally finished the bypass, which is what we still refer to, the Highway 4 extension out here. But, and Steve touched on this about the need for transportation. Why did we have Hacienda Business Park? Why do they have Bishop Ranch? Because they had major freeways right next to it. What we need in East County is to finish the beltway around Mount Diablo. And what I've been calling for years, the back door to Highway 4. Route 239 has been on the plans for 60 years. It's time we move forward with that. And I want to, what is going to be done at the county level to make sure that's included in the next half-cent sales tax round for the county, to make sure we get that tri-link done, the 4 lanes of transit and 4 lanes of traffic and 2 lanes of transit, to tie East County into I-5, which we're going to need to bring those trucks in and out of here to the waterfront, to the industrial area, to bring both the jobs and move the goods and services.
Thank you, Alan. That might be less of a question for our panel and more a statement that you made to a lot of elected officials here representing CCTA and partner agencies. Another audience question, I think over here. Yeah. Hold on a sec, please. I don't know if anyone had any thoughts on 239. That's a local issue.
Well, I will say one thing about that, Alan, and you know this well, I think many of you do. If you look at what we think we'll have in terms of funding over the next 25 years or so, we're spending almost 90% of it just to operate and maintain the system we already have. So we have a real squeeze going in terms of not having enough money for the kind of expansion activity that we would like to see on all modes of transportation. So again, it's the onus is mostly on us to try to raise that gap. Because in Washington, they do a lot of talking about infrastructure, but they don't seem to do anything about it. The legislature has come through in recent years, as you know, with a much higher gasoline tax, which is going to fund a lot of expansion activity. But we still have that gap where our operation and maintenance needs are sort of swallowing our capital budget and really crowding out the ability to expand as much as we'd like to see.
Thank you. Yes.
I've been a community college trustee for the last 6 years, and I spent 14 years teaching and retired as a university professor. I have a question for each of you. What has been the role, if any, of community colleges in what you've been trying to accomplish?
I'll start with that. Community colleges for manufacturing and making and manufacturing, I think, are at the heart and soul of our technical education. And, you know, I think particularly we are as a region and as a country reconnecting, having what we used to call vocational, now we call it career tech ed in our schools. We are in the middle of trying to rebuild and reconnect our CTE programs with our community colleges, with industry. And across the Bay Area, we have points of light and we have points of absence. So as a great example, San Francisco itself has had a community college that lost its accreditation and has had some struggles. At the same time, Laney College in the East Bay has continued to have some real strength and actually, I believe, has taken a real regional front-runner position of creating curriculum around general manufacturing 101 kinds of training and continue to also have much more specific tracks. And we now actually find San Francisco manufacturers recruiting students from the East Bay who go through Laney or San Francisco residents going to get trained at Laney College. So I think the community college network is actually incredibly invaluable to what we do, but we have more work to do across the region to connect it to business.
Thank you.
You said the question was for each of us, but my answer would be almost identical to what Kate just said. I think it's the critical component. You highlighted Laney. As tech comes to the East Bay, everyone is looking to the Foothill Community College District and the work that they have done to create the training programs for the back office jobs in Silicon Valley. Not everyone who lives on the peninsula or in Santa Clara County has a PhD in mechanical engineering or electrical engineering, but lots and lots and lots of people work in Silicon Valley and do quite well, thank you, and the Foothill Community College District has done that. So as I mentioned, there are industries that are high wage and low wage all at the same time. Hopefully we'll move some of those into the middle, and the way to do that is with the community college training.
Thank you. I think we might have time for, Steve, did you have anything you wanted to add? That's been covered, okay. We think we have time for one or two more questions. I see one right here in the front.
Thank you, Amalia. My question is for Kate. Could you speak a little more about 150 Hooper and how you guys were able to accomplish that? Because I think it's a brilliant model, and what steps we would need to take as a region if we wanted to move to a model like that.
Sure, thanks. Well, the first thing I'll start by saying is, San Francisco has this perplexing problem of being literally 49 square miles. So it's a small, dense city. I think on the one hand, one of the keys to incentivizing a project like that to move forward was mayoral leadership, and I will give props out to the late Mayor Ed Lee, because there was almost no public forum in which he spoke about anything that he didn't speak about manufacturing in the same breath, and actually his own parents worked in garment manufacturing, so it's personal for him. So I'm going to start with that, because that actually helped, especially in the early days, dispel the notion that San Francisco, A, wasn't interested in retaining blue-collar jobs, B, didn't have any manufacturing left, and C, that there wouldn't be a value to looking at the industrial stock that we had. So fast forward 5 years in, our economy was heating up. We were starting to find that we had almost no industrial space left, and much of that was the success of the actual manufacturing sector competing with each other for space. So the genesis of what became our first real estate project, in part, was looking at other cities on the East Coast and in the Midwest who had always had more manufacturing, and looking also to affordable housing and how affordable housing gets built. The reality is, to build new industrial in any of our communities almost doesn't pencil, and also still have the new thing be affordable to many of the kinds of manufacturing and other kinds of industrial operations that we'd like to see. So when you think about affordable housing, well, how does that get built? Well, in part, you're using a cross-subsidization from the market rate thing to pay for the below market thing. Well, there isn't enough market rate industrial to pay for the below market, or at least there wasn't when we started thinking about this. So instead we looked at Class A office. So we then came up with a special kind of zoning that allows on basically vacant parcels in the city's industrial areas to have this chance to build some office if there is a deed restriction and an agreement to build at least 1/3 basically affordable PDR, which we call production, distribution, repair. So it was a combination of zoning, I think just recognition by the city's leadership that we really wanted to be still a place that made stuff. And then the new markets tax credits, the reason that's so important, I think the hardest part about the whole thing, our building is 60,000 square feet, 4 stories, not that big. The whole thing cost us $30 million, and that was using every possible cost-saving measure we could find, getting the land for free. So my view is the missing piece is any kind of equity, or think about how we do, again, affordable housing, a housing trust. We really need as communities to have, and whether, I'm a big fan of shared, so whether it's a shared community industrial trust that could be used to inject equity to close the gap where new markets tax credits doesn't provide enough, I think is one piece. And the other, I guess, insight is that for some communities, it may be less about building a ton of new industrial. For some communities, it's about rehabbing the industrial you have, or creating density in some of your existing industrial areas. So I believe some of these tricks can be used to both do rehab and intensification as well as new construction.
So I think that was a great question. Thank you for bringing that to light. And obviously, there's a whole story there. And to summarize, it's in its current form, it's industrial rent control. It's keeping industrial here very deliberately and strategically, not just because it's always been there, but as Kate said, San Francisco made a choice. We want to be a place where those jobs are.
And we do tours anytime, quite seriously. Please, if you want to come and learn more, we'd be happy to host.
Yes, it's a very interesting tour. I've had the pleasure of being on it. Any final thoughts from our panelists as you wrap up and prepare to send us on our day with inspirational thoughts or things that we should look into further? Steve, we invited you here to be indiscreet, and you've really been quite circumscribed.
Well, you don't want to goad me into saying something that I'll regret.
No?
I am surprised, I will say, by the number of people here, and Federal Glover told me there were a lot more folks earlier. And that level of interest, I think, is always step one in trying to make any kind of change. So I congratulate you for that. I'm not going to say anything crazy. I think you're on the right track.
Okay, that's a great note to send us on. We are on the right track. I want to thank our regional panel, Robert Ogilvie, Kate Sophus, and Steve Heminger. Thank you so much. And as our panel makes their way down, I would like to take a moment before introducing our next speaker just to say that, of course, events like this don't happen by themselves. It would not have happened without the leadership and encouragement of Supervisor Diane Burgess and Supervisor Federal Glover. Again, the Northern Waterfront Ad Hoc Committee is the guiding force behind everything we're doing in this realm, so I want to give them both a round of applause and great appreciation. I also want to take just a quick moment to acknowledge my staff partner in making this event happen today. In addition to all the DCD staff who participated and John Kopchak providing leadership, Trish Dominguez, who I think is not even in the room because she's been running around all day. This would not have happened without Trish Dominguez and the Department of Conservation and Development. And now it is my great pleasure to welcome to the stage a very special guest. We are delighted that Assembly Member Timothy S. Grayson, representing District 14, which overlaps with the Northern Waterfront area, could join us today to share a few thoughts about how he is working in Sacramento to support jobs in the district. Please welcome Assembly Member Grayson.
Well, you were very gracious with that introduction. It's a delight to be here with each and every one of you, and friends and stakeholders in the community, staff. All the work that you're doing together is making a difference, and it's moving that dial. It's moving that dial in a direction that we want to see it to move in as far as where we're located in the Bay Area region. We hear a lot of conversation about and dialogue about jobs. We hear a lot of conversation, dialogue about transportation infrastructure. Then we hear a lot about housing. And a lot of times that dialogue is done in a siloed way where the topic is housing or the topic is jobs or the topic is transportation infrastructure. But I think the most productive conversation that could take place is when we break down the walls, and when we talk about housing, it's in the context of transportation and infrastructure. And when we talk about those two, it's in the context of jobs. To be able to create an environment to where people can live, work, and play all in the same area, to where people can wake up and go to and be at work instead of a 2-hour commute one way, it's a 20-minute jaunt across town, and they're able to work, get back home in a decent time, to be able to have time for themselves, for their own mental, emotional, and physical health. Or to be able to spend time with their families, which a lot of times both of those go hand in hand. So the quality of life rises. Someone says, well, how can that happen? And what makes us optimistic that it could happen in our area? We actually are right at the impetus, the precipice of a great breakthrough, in the sense that the pressure points that are being created just west of us are really at a tipping point. And you have jobs, you have housing, you have the transportation, and they've all reached a maximum critical mass point. And that's the fact that maybe they can create more jobs, but you can't get more people over the same infrastructure. Or maybe they have housing, but it's so astronomical in affordability that, or lack of affordability, that it's not even an option. So because of the flow, and the flow has begun to turn, the tide has turned, and it's looking directly our way. And we have exactly what this wave needs. We have the infrastructure, you have the waterway, you have the railway, and you have the highway. We have what it takes to be able to accommodate jobs, to be able to accommodate appropriate housing, and to be able to accommodate the transport or the infrastructure that would need to grow and increase if need be. But I also want to state that the conversation around housing, and something that I'm really focusing on up in the Sacramento area, without allowing Sacramento to take over my brain, hopefully. But it's not just affordable housing. We hear a lot of conversation and a lot of talk about funding and putting resources toward affordable housing. And I agree, we need affordable housing. But at the same time, we need housing that's affordable. And the reason why I bring that up, thank you. Somebody got that. So I thought that was the same. No, it's not the same. It's not the same, because housing that's affordable is really addressing workforce housing. And where we can accommodate that, it creates a better quality of life. It opens up an environment for workforce training, bringing in institutions of higher education, and also returning career technical education back into our schools, namely K through 12, but to be able to continue to support our community colleges. But we have the workforce, it's already here. What we need is to make sure that we create that the consortium or that partnership, the partnership I'm talking about, that is private, public, that is staff, elected, where we're all getting together, not in opposition, we're all getting together with not what can't be done, but with how can we get to where we need to be together. And I know that's the attitude of Federal Glover, Supervisor, and Supervisor Diane Burgess. Thank you so much for your leadership, your work at this waterfront, Northern Waterfront Initiative, and to be able to have more conversations that involve housing than just affordable, but housing that's workforce oriented, so that I don't have to get on a plane and fly to some other state to visit my grandchildren. I can make sure and work hard to ensure that my children can live in the same place that they were raised, and then raise my grandchildren in that same place, so that we can actually have a thing called heritage in a location, in a geographical location. God bless each and every one of you.
Wow. That was very inspirational. Thank you, Assembly Member, for that speech. On your table, you've got some little trinkets. There's this and a pen and a booklet. Be sure to take those home. Those are memorabilia, we'll call those, from today's event. Can we have one more round of applause for all of our speakers that were here today? I think we've learned and been inspired in equal parts, and I encourage all of you to share this information with your colleagues and connections. The PowerPoints from today will all be posted within a few days on the county's Northern Waterfront Initiative webpage. I personally would like to thank Supervisor Glover and Burgess, as well as all of the county staff, for putting together this event. This was a wonderful event. You can tell by the attendance and just the information that was given. So let's give them a round of applause. And then I'm going to say my farewell, and we're going to invite Supervisor Burgess to the stage for her farewells.
Burgess, 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 Burgess. It's all the same. It's all the same. Hey, I want to thank you for staying till the end. It's not always easy to do that. We've got a pretty full room for the end of the day. I hope you were inspired and informed and encouraged to continue this effort to create more jobs in Contra Costa County. I'd like to acknowledge my board, We have invested in this, $500,000. We've got Amalia Cunningham working on this. I'd also like to acknowledge Federal for his leadership in shining a light on this issue and being a leader. I'd like to acknowledge my local leaders, because we are partners. We are working on this together. And, you know, Karen Mitchoff, who sits on the airport commission with me, I want to recognize her because we've been working very hard to incorporate the work we're doing with our airports into the Northern Waterfront Initiative. I also want to remind people that our communities in East Contra Costa are fragile. We are very dependent on our property tax because we don't have the jobs and the revenue that we've gone over. And so everything that we do can help strengthen those communities. And we have a lot to offer. We have a location that is in proximity to all kinds of places that need the workforce that we have. We're affordable. We have a quality of life. We have the interest and enthusiasm and creativity obviously shown today, and we're willing to invest. And so I'm inspired. I hope you're inspired. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. I am inspired. And to my partner in crime, Diane Burgess, it's been a pleasure working with you on the ad hoc committee that keeps it moving. I just want to say some thank yous. David Chua, our county administrator, I took this to him a number of years ago and talked about the opportunity that I seen as a vision for the Northern Waterfront. An opportunity that I seen as an opportunity for cities within the Northern Waterfront, that we could better serve our constituency by bringing jobs here to the local community, by bringing training here to the local community, by working with the community college district here in our local communities, and to be able to look out and see what other needs that they would be, the human capital piece that is so important in making a difference as we try to take what used to be and make it even greater than what it was in the past. As we look at the transition of technology and how it's going to be so important that we have a trained workforce in order to take on those new jobs or whatever that may look like, that we would work together with all of our regional partners, those of you who are here today, to make a difference. That plan went to a board of supervisors that I appreciate that were very supportive at that time. It consisted of individuals that are still on the board of supervisors, with the exception of Mary Pifo. But those members, John Joya, Candace Anderson, Diane at this point, Karen Mitchoff, who was my partner in crime prior to Diane coming on board. And I don't think I left anyone out there, but that board of supervisors embraced this vision. They embraced this opportunity. They embraced the fact that we could do more within Contra Costa County if we were able to work together, to partner with our sisters, with our cities within the county, to partner with the private sector, to partner with the nonprofits, to partner with our constituency at large, and to bring about good, positive change. Society is not sitting still. Our opportunities are here, they're now. Because if we don't be proactive, we will be behind the 8 ball. We will continue to have other communities that are taking advantage of the opportunities. It is our time, and it is now. You've heard from some great speakers today. You've heard from a collaborative of elected officials who are on board. You've heard from the treasurer that I thought brought inspiring words because she said that she had dollars. Once again, we were talking to the head banker of the 5th largest economy, and we need to take advantage of that. I think that there was some commitment made on the part of her today, And we want to make sure that we hold true to making that a reality here in Contra Costa County. So I thank those of you who have been able to come out today. I thank you for the fact that you are on board. I thank those who have been working with our consultants and in particular our staff. And I really want to praise John Kupchak and Amalia Cunningham for their leadership. Amalia, there's a lot of things that take place. And we know that you couldn't stop and just put this forum together. There's been a lot of work that has to take place in between that to keep this thing moving. And I want to thank you because, as I say, I can turn my vision over at this point and let everyone participate in it. It is something that we all own at this point, and we need to really embrace it. Let's run with it. Let's do our best work, and let's do it as a united front so that we here in Contra Costa County will be able to reap the benefits as they come down. So thank you again. I appreciate the fact that you all have been able to give us your day, your time, your resources to make this reality happen. I want to thank the committee who's been responsible for working with Amalia. I want to thank my staff. I think everyone's on board here today with my staff, and I want to thank them for being here today. Once again, have a beautiful day, but don't forget that as you leave here, the work begins now. Thank you.